Hero Time starts now.
Hey, I'm Christopher Kamen Lee, and you are listening to the Ranger Recap.
Okay, so let's get into the studio here, boys. What the hell? Oh, this paper.
Okay, John.
What? This isn't Sunday. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
I don't know.
You're helping me with a stack of paper we just got a couple of days ago. My God, this is just part of the research.
God, just making me do work.
God, how many trees did we decimate to make this pile?
What is all this?
Oh, that's just the divorce papers. Sorry.
That makes sense. Everything.
What?
With the
Oh, hi, Sarah Brown. Oh, Sarah Brown.
What the
I
hell?
thought I recognized that necklace.
Hi, guys.
Well, let's cue the intro and let's get into this then, shall we?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ranger Recap, the only Power Rangers podcast to ask the question, are you living in the real world or the virtual world? And if you're not, put on your virtual visor. It's funny how those are coming back in style.
I know, right?
It's like perfect timing.
It's like it never went away. Yeah. Yeah, I see you in the back with the virtual boy. Put that thing down. No, in fact, throw it away.
Get a
Set it
headache.
on
You'll
fire.
get a headache if you do that.
Yeah, throw it away.
I bought it fair and square. You can't make me.
God damn it, Ace. All right,
You know what? As long as he's playing Wario Land, it's cool.
Damn
Fine,
right.
fine.
let's get to the introductions.
Yes, I'm Easy Rider. That's the Shades. That's Matty Jay. And our buddy from Toku Riffs Live joining us for this very special edition of the Ranger Recap, Spade Ace. But he's not the only guest we have.
Oh, no, indeed. As you heard, ladies and gentlemen, the big day has arrived. We hinted at this last week that we sent out the invite last week on the recap. And tonight, she has accepted. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from VR Troopers and many soap operas abound, Miss Sarah Brown.
Oh, thank you. Very nice to be here.
Hey, if you're going to
Thank you,
do it
guys.
correctly, Daytime Emmy Award winner,
winning.
Sarah Brown.
You're right.
We're
You're right.
not
Very kind of
worthy.
you.
We're not worthy.
You're definitely worthy.
Yes, our first guys, our first metal hero on Ranger Recap. This is big for us.
Very true.
Yes, she counts. VR Troopers counts as metal heroes. Shut up.
Counts.
Yeah.
It's a metal hero.
That's the
That's what,
Japanese stock
VR
footage VR Troopers came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of.
We
it's
know
got-
the inside stuff.
Yeah, we know where it comes from.
So let me ask you guys a question. Are you all huge fans? Is that how you got into doing this? You're big fans of all of the anime and the Japanese footage and then the shows as they were produced?
Long story short,
Yeah.
yep.
That's the long and short of it. Yeah, we watched Power Rangers and VR Troopers, of course,
Okay.
and then that our curiosity led us to the Japanese side of the coin. So yeah, in a way, you guys helped us along. So we owe you big time.
Oh, excellent.
Yes. Yep.
And I can
So,
tell you
yeah.
now, the chat is really happy to see you right now. We're getting a lot of love in the chat right now. A lot of people saying,
Hi, chatters.
Yeah. Yeah. I should tell Sarah.
Questions.
Yeah, I should tell Sarah. I'm actually planning a review. I review these shows, so in the future, I'm planning a VR Troopers, and I already got a cameo from your co-star Brad Hawkins.
Oh, did you? No,
Yep.
That's very cool. I love
Yeah, he's
Brad.
cool
He's
about
a
that.
sweetheart.
Yeah,
He's a good guy.
Yes, he is. We've met him. Great guy.
yeah.
He's a
absolutely.
gentleman.
That he is.
Yes,
Yep.
he is. Anyway, so unfortunately, the reason we have Sarah on is not as good as it sounds. As a lot of you know, last week we talked about the comment made by Sarah on Facebook, and that was kind of what spurred this on. But as we get into that topic here, for a quick reminder, for those who did not see it last week, Sarah had laid out some serious comments about the producer at Saban Entertainment, Shuki Levy, and a lot of the things that done. And I want to tell you this right now, folks. A lot of what you're going to be hearing tonight has been backed up by documentation. She has court documents that are available on public record, so you can verify these yourself if you wish. And all of this is just, if you thought what you heard last week was insane, I'm going to tell you straight up, folks, we have learned over the last week with talking with Sarah and prepping up for this interview how deep this rabbit hole goes. And what you heard last week, tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg.
I like
for you fellow wrestling fans out there.
Rabbit hole. That's exactly what it's been.
Rabbit hole. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So for you wrestling fans out there, this is a shoot, 1, and 2. Ric Flair said it best. We've only just begun.
Yes. So, I think the first obvious question we have to ask getting into this is, how exactly did this situation with Shuki start when you first had all this happen?
Okay, so the first time that Shuki physically assaulted me was in 1995. And I had been working for the show for a while at that point. One of my very best friends is a Power Ranger. And she introduced me to Haim and Shuki when I was in high school. And she asked myself and another friend of ours if we would like to go down to the Saban studios when they were still in Culver City. And I was attending Hamilton High School Academy of Music at the time. And so, of course, we wanted to go. We knew she was doing this pilot for them. Power Rangers was not out at the time. So it wasn't the biggest thing ever yet. You know, we just knew she had this pilot and she had this show. And she said that, you know, would we like to, her two best girlfriends who were both in high school, come down and submit our headshots for consideration for their production company to be either on her show, Rangers, or on one of the other shows. So we did that. And very soon after, I received an audition. So I had an agent at the time, which was called the Bigley Agency. They went under for embezzling from their clients. Just a little side note.
Okay.
This is the company that hooked me up with Saban. And so I went ahead and I did my audition for them. And at the time that I did the audition for them, I was then doing Antigone. I was playing Antigone in the show Antigone at Santa Monica College. So I was doing that on stage, and I had gone to the high school for the performing arts, and I think I considered myself a true thespian, and I wasn't real sure if I wanted to do a children's television series. But when I was called on my 19th birthday and told that I got the job, I was super excited to go ahead and do it. And by that time, Power Rangers was becoming the biggest thing ever. As you guys know, they went to Universal Studios and 30,000 people showed up to see them and shut down the freeway. And it was just the biggest thing ever. So I thought, yeah, I want to do this show, even if it's not what I thought I wanted to do. So I went along and we did the first episode. And then Shuki came in to reshoot the first episode, the pilot. And at that point was the first time that I remember feeling actually uncomfortable around him. He came to the base of the stairs when I was exiting the bathroom, a honey wagon, and he stood there as I walked down the stairs and he looked at me. He just was looking at me like he wanted to eat me. And you definitely want your producers to want, you know, to think that you're beautiful or whatever it is, that you have that star quality, because you want to have a job. You want to keep your job. And as long as nobody crosses a line, that's a good thing. So I come out of the bathroom, and keep in mind, I'm 19 years old. And he looks at me and he says, "You're going to be a star. You know, I'm going to make you a star." And I just sort of smiled and laughed and giggled and whatever else and went on about my day. So that was the first time that I put it in the back of my mind. You know, just be careful. Watch yourself with this guy. He definitely wants, you know, he has an attraction to me. At that point, I understood that. I feel that. But it didn't feel like it was ever going to be dangerous. And I honestly, at 19, thought, I can handle these guys. They're nobody, you know, they're not tough. I'm fine. So long about, let's say, cut to now we're in the second season of VR Troopers. and I got into some trouble. So I had been out with one of the rangers, and we had been drinking, and I should not have been drinking because to be drinking. In addition to that, I drove myself home from the bar that we were at, and I have a tendency to be incredibly animated in the car, so I was swerving. Long story short, I got arrested for drinking and driving.
Hey,
And
okay.
it was not great. And so I called the ranger, and she bailed me out. And she was my neighbor as well at the time. She lived next door. So she bailed me out, and we had just been together. Well, I come to find out that she had told Shuki where we were going. And, you know, to this day, I always wonder about getting pulled over on that particular day because it was such a coincidence. I really hadn't seen Shuki almost at all, maybe only one other time since I started on the show. And by this time, we're long into the second season. And so at the same time that I got arrested, he was sitting on the sound stages directing. And I thought, well, this is interesting that he's here and I can't not tell him what has just happened. So I walked up to him and I told him, I know someone you know who is in a lot of trouble. And he said, who? And I said, me. And he looked at me and he smiled, the biggest Cheshire cat smile. And he said, well, why don't you come to dinner and we will discuss the future with the company. Now, by the end of that dinner, which I had a really lovely time talking with him, he's very, very intelligent, and he's so knowledgeable about so many different fields. And I just thought, you know, this is so great. I'm getting closer to my boss, and hopefully they'll provide for me in the same way they did for my other friend who's a ranger, and they'll give me films for their companies and so forth. So I had been told by his secretary to come to his house on that day for that meeting, that he was to drive us to dinner, and I was going to leave my car at his house. So I did. And when dinner was over, we went to Cafe Med on Sunset Boulevard. He drove us back to his house, and I went to say goodbye to him, and he shoved his tongue down my. And he is almost 50 at that point, and I am 20. And I was so repulsed, grossed out, and just, I was diminished is the best thing that I could say about the moment where a man does that to you, that you work for, and that you desperately want to respect you for your work and to provide work for you. It diminishes you as a human being, and you are reduced in those moments to what's between your legs and what's on your chest. And so it just felt like it was crushing. It was a crushing blow for me at 19. That's how it started. And at this time, from what I later, many years later, understand, is that Mr. Levy was married still at the time, though the only other time I had seen him on the set since he directed the pilot was with his fiance, who was an actress on General Hospital. And so when I, saw him come to the set, he brought his fiance. Nobody ever thought the man was married. There was no mention of a wife, and there was no internet. Everybody remember that as well. So there weren't, ways to go and look him up. And, maybe there was some people were emailing, but Google didn't exist in the form that it does now.
Yeah.
So getting information was not the way that it is now. Nowadays, what he did to me, he could never, I wouldn't think he would get away with it. I think that 19-year-olds now are much more savvy than that, and they can just hop over to Google and look things up and find out things on their own. But I will say that it wasn't until my daughter was over a year old, and I want to say she was 19 months old, but at any rate, it was during a deposition where my lawyer was taking his deposition because he was suing me for full custody of her, that I was told at that time that he was still married. And then I will say that the fiance remained his fiance even while I was living with him. And none of us knew about each other as far as I know. Now, I don't know what his wife knew, but I know for a fact that the actress from General Hospital did not know about me until I was sent out of town on a junket for General Hospital, and she came over to the house and saw my clothes in the closet, and he lied and said they were a friend of his, Israel's girlfriend, and she didn't believe him, so she left him at that point. And it wasn't until she came and knocked on my door at General Hospital, because they had given her a part on a sister show, that she and I were able to catch up and understand all of the things that this had been up to for the many, many years that this had gone. So, you know, the as you said, it's a rabbit hole, but that's where it started. It really started with the man shoving his tongue down my throat under, you know, the guise of, let me help you, not only with your career, but with this situation that, you know, you've been arrested for drinking and driving. And it, you know, the company did find a lawyer for me and represent me in that case, which was reduced to a wet reckless. But incidentally, both the officers that arrested were transferred and able to show up.
Yeah, there's a. That's the thing we got to be aware of. First of all, yeah, chat. For those who don't quite understand, some of you have already pieced it together. Yes, he was married to one woman, engaged to another, and was still trying to hook up with Sarah while at the same time. All at the same time.
Worse than trying to hook up with me, he actually had me living with at one point while he was engaged to Shell Daniels. Sorry, Shell Daniels is her name. Okay, so that's out.
Whoops.
So he was, so he was engaged to her, and she did not know about me. And he was having me. I was living. And I will further say that, he that there were more than just three of us. That there was a lot more going on. And I know this because I was told when I went to my girlfriend who had got me in touch with this man, with Shuki Levy and with Saban Entertainment in the first place, and told her that he shoved his tongue down my throat. She said he did the same thing to me. And she was a Power Ranger. And she said she rejected him, and that he stopped providing, the company stopped providing roles for her. So at that point, she was doing other work for the company outside of Rangers. And she said that they stopped.
Okay.
So she warned me to be very careful with him, that he would retaliate if I rejected him.
Did he say, like, you'd never work in this town again?
No,
or something
he
like
didn't
that?
say anything. He literally shoved his tongue down my throat with a full beard. I mean, I'd never kissed a man with a beard before, except my father, and not in that way. It was, it was just, you know, it was awful when the initial response to it was just awful. So I don't know. Do you guys have more questions? Or?
I think,
I think we need to address the other elephant in the
we
room.
warned you, folks. We warned you.
Yeah, you
It's not all fun and games tonight.
I do want to warn people. This is not for kids. You know, if you're listening to this and you have your kids there in the background, the allegations that I have to make, the stories that I want to tell about what I've been through, not for children at all. You know, this is for adults.
We
This
put
is
up a
all for
disclaimer.
adult conversation.
We put up a
Okay,
disclaimer every show for exactly for situations like this. But let's get to the
and
other.
if you're triggered,
big time trigger warning here.
If sexual assault triggers you, you don't want to listen.
No, but now we need to get to the other big moment in this in this part of the thing, and that was what happens when you finally, like, you'd been together for a while, and stuff like that. And to answer a question in chat, yes, we will be taking questions soon. Right now, we're just trying to get the initial story out there first, but we will be taking questions from you guys later on. That being said, we need to discuss the other big thing that happened. You guys thought that was bad. We've only just started, because it gets much worse, because a couple other things that she's talked to us about really shows how dangerous someone like Shuki Levy and Saban in general can be when pushed.
Yeah, Haim Saban has a hand in this too, folks. We'll get to him.
Oh, we will get to him. But
we'll get to that, man.
Do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the stalking, or do we want to get to the...
Sure. I mean, I think the
Let's get to
stalking
that.
is not a bad thing to get into, because because it wasn't just me. I'm not the only person that went through it with him. So the other actress who was on General Hospital also dealt with stalking from him, and she and I talked about it at the point where, so when I say that this man stalked me, I can say that I got a restraining order against him in 2000 because he hired an Israeli private investigative company called Nastek International to follow me everywhere. He hired them, and they did surveillance on me. He says he did not hire them to follow me, but they followed me. So I think that he alleges they did that on their own. I don't really understand, but
We should also
what we know
we
is
should
that he
mention
did it, and he got a restraining order against him for doing it.
Yeah,
we got people saying they're a big fan that actually Ranger Network. I just want to say my late mother used to watch General Hospital every day in the week, and I want to say that I'm a big fan of you, Sarah. Okay, there you go.
there you go.
Can you see
Yeah.
the chat, Sarah?
Thank you.
You need a link.
It doesn't.
No, I don't see anything. I don't see it.
One moment, please.
Easy, you
We
handle
have
that.
it. We
Now-
have it. There you go.
There you go.
Oh,
Now-
nice, lovely, thank you.
There you
you
go. And it's just the chat,
Okay,
so you don't have to worry
good.
about
We
it.
aims to please.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
we should note, when she says she got a restraining order, this is not just her saying that. We have seen said restraining
Thank
order. In
you.
fact, would you be okay if I put that on screen for everybody?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to pull up an image here.
We have the proof.
Yeah. I
We
don't
have
wa-
proof.
Because obviously this is a very
There we go.
serious... No, yeah.
It is,
Well,
and you know what? Shuki Levy has said things over and over and over again to people that I know. Like, oh, well, she keeps talking about this restraining order she wants to get on me, but nothing. So, yes, please put that up.
yeah, you can see that right there on the screen right now.
I'm done with this guy.
That is the actual
Right?
restraining
My
order.
daughter's- I want everyone to know that my daughter is 21 years old now, and that is now.
Yeah.
Because I've been telling these stories for 20 years. 100% of the time, if you were near me or close to me, you knew these stories. 100% of the time, I got fired again and again for telling them. And I am still telling them. And now that my daughter is 21 years old, she's an adult, and I no longer am worried about, how this is going to, I'm worried about how it's going to affect her, of course. But at the same time, I recognize now that she's a young woman, and these are the kinds of issues that young women are always facing. And I was her age when father did these things to me. So I have every right to speak up and speak out for myself, stand up for myself, and stand up for all the other young women who go through things like this. I want to, I want to tell this story so that I can help encourage anyone out there listening that feels like, oh, me too. Geez, that's kind of like my situation. Run.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Run.
Yeah.
Just get out, because you may be afraid to get out, but it's much, much scarier to spend your life in something like that.
Yeah.
Guys,
in an
too,
abusive
Sarah.
relationship.
I mean,
100%.
you heard-
You're absolutely right in
Did
bringing
you hear
that
what
up.
happened to David Yost? They ran him
did.
off. They ran him off. So he eventually he came
Amy
forward
Jo
with those stories. So
Canada.
it's we're glad you're coming forward with yours.
Canada. Amy Jo moved to Canada.
Wow.
I'm starting to get a big suspicion about that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that what I know is you don't see a lot of people from their shows doing well. And I will say that my personal feeling about that is not that the actors couldn't perform, is that there is a blacklisting, because if these people, this is my personal opinion. I have not had someone say this to me, but it's also my experience that I've watched a lot of very talented people go through and work for them and not be able to get work. And I thought a lot, I wonder if it's because those same people have allegations, and that if they become famous or they have money of their own, they'll speak out. Whereas if you don't have money, whereas if you don't have jobs, you're going to keep showing up to that Comic-Con, to get that money for autograph signing or, speaking publicly. And that is the truth. I mean, it's a way of controlling people by not having them do well and be successful in other aspects of their career. So I don't think that everyone who worked for Saban is a pony, and yet it looks that way.
definitely divided again.
I think the guy who did Breaking Bad is the only real example. Maybe I'm wrong, but you guys will have to correct me.
There have been a few actors, like strictly speaking, when Saban was running the show, there's only one season whose actors have made a career for themselves after the fact. And that was Time Force. A lot of their actors have gone on to other projects that have been very successful. But I do agree, 90% of the actors in Power Rangers that Saban has run have had a horrible experience. And even when Saban bought the franchise back, to give you an idea of just how long this has continued, they bought the franchise back in, I want to say, 2010?
2010.
2010.
Yeah, 2010.
Yeah, because that's when I was fired, going to my boss and telling them.
Oh, wow.
And most of the actors from those seasons, from those 4 seasons they did, were equally, like, a lot of them have been outspoken about how much they hated working on that show. So,
thank God, I'm not alone in this. So good.
Yeah.
You're not the only one, Sarah. We've interviewed many of them, and they have spoken about it.
What's super interesting is to find out that so many years later, they would still be working the same way. And I think that the way that Saban himself, personally, and now I'm speaking about Haim Saban, likes to run his sets is with an iron fist. That was my experience. We weren't allowed to leave the set and go back to our dressing room unless there was going to be an hour time in between setups, because they didn't want us to get big heads like they felt the Power Rangers were now getting. They didn't want us to get out of control. And so it was a way, from the very beginning of work for these guys, there was a huge amount of control being exerted on the actors. And I think that that's wrong.
It's funny you mentioned control, Sarah, because speaking of Megaforce, probably the most infamous Neo Saban season, Haim Saban, or the company rather, emailed a bunch of old Ranger actors to come back, and then they turned around and canceled that. Prime example was Rhett Fisher from Lightspeed Rescue. He was invited, but then they said, no, you're not invited. You're not coming. They wouldn't even pay for their way there. It's just,
no. Pay for nothing. There was nothing they paid for. We didn't have
nothing,
insurance, and I made about $700 an episode, just so everyone knows. It was, and also what is really important to make sure that the fans understand is that we never made $1 again. I didn't get paid, nor did Brad, nor did Michael, for showing up on my birthday, showing up at Universal Studios and doing a live show where we did show after show after show after show. And all day long, we didn't get paid, not $1. We didn't make a single dollar in overtime that I can remember. But I will tell you that I almost every day worked more than 12 hours.
That's
very, very seldom.
No fees, no residuals, nothing.
No residuals. So it's a cash cow for them. And that's part of why I'm speaking up about it, is because they keep selling this content to different entities because it's a cash cow. They don't have to pay residuals. They don't pay a dime. So I made my initial $700 per episode or whatever it was. I mean, $700 is like what I had after tax, So maybe I made $1,000 or I made $800, whatever it was. I took home about $700 an episode. I didn't have health insurance, and none of us did. And we were harassed just being on the set. But then they went and sold it to Netflix. It went to Nick Jr. It went to Disney. So all these multi-gazillion dollar companies have this content, and they're just money is pouring in for them for Saban content because they don't pay anyone else. They also don't pay composers. So Shuki and Haim own the rights to the music that they didn't actually write.
Yeah, trust me, we've talked we've talked with Ron Wasserman a few months ago, and he pretty much shared a similar sentiment on that.
He was a trip and a half.
Yeah. He had a few horror stories of his own to share.
Yeah,
nothing like yours, but obviously, but still pretty bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I feel that I was targeted. I will say that I feel now that he targeted me, that Shuki Levy targeted me for weakness, that he smelled blood in the water and he knew that I was a vulnerable young woman, and that I just didn't have, it's always been kind of curious to me, why me? And then I realized, well, he did it to a lot of women, but nobody's, I can't think of anyone else he went after the way that he went after me for 20 years.
especially
know
with what we're about to get to next, which is what happened when you finally had been with him for a while, and living with him, and you'd learned of all of this, and you'd had enough, and you tried to leave, and and a very big coincidence happens after you leave.
Right. So this is,
let's get to this.
some of the stuff that I went through with these guys, it's just incredibly scary. And what happened was, I was living in an apartment that Shuki Levy owned. And I had been on General Hospital at that point for, I think, 9 months. And I had been in the apartment for 3 months. It was my first apartment. I moved out of my mother's home into this apartment, and I paid $900 a month. It was on Crescent Heights, just below Sunset Boulevard. And I was working my way towards trying to get away from him, but I was scared of him. And there were a lot of conflicting feelings, and I didn't really know how I was going to get. What happened was we got into an enormous fight on the phone, and I said to him, I'm going to tell the world who you really are. And he said back to me, if you do that, I cannot be held responsible for what might happen to you. And he threatened me. It was a threat, 100%. I then told him not to enter my apartment, not to have any of his people in my apartment, and that I would be out of there within. I went to work the next day, and I came home, and there was a key mysteriously sitting on the bar, my breakfast bar, in my apartment. So I called him very angry. Why was someone in my house, and what is going on? And he let me know that his bodyguard had brought the handyman in to fix my air conditioning, which I never said was broken. And
Red
so I was
flag.
furious. Yeah, 100%. I was absolutely furious. So Friday, then that's Thursday. Then Friday, one of the Power Rangers came over. And my best friend from high school, who had been the initial person who went to the Saban studios with me when we were both 18, came over. And my Power Ranger friend brought her boyfriend. We all spent Friday night celebrating the fact that I had finally broken it off with this guy for good. And it was over. Because the Power Ranger felt, I think, very guilty for getting us involved and just wanted me to get away from him. So they left, her boyfriend and her left about 2:00 in the morning. And I went to sleep with my very other best friend in the same bed. And about 9:00 that morning, the next morning, Saturday morning, I believe it was Saturday, but it could have been Sunday. I have to look at the report.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. So
way.
this is 1996, everyone. I've been on General Hospital for 3 months, and I am awoken by just being very hot in the apartment. So I wake up and I let my dog out on the balcony. His name is Wolfgang. And I go over to the air conditioning and I turn it on the first time since they had been in my apartment. And I hear this very loud surge, as you sometimes do when an air conditioning turns on. But I never will forget that sound because of what came after that. I walked back to my bed and I went back to sleep. And within an hour, I was being shaken awake by my best girlfriend. And she was just in a panic. And I opened my eyes and I saw smoke wafting past the door. Long story short, the apartment was an absolute inferno. We tried very hard to get out the front door, and we could not. The front door would not open. And I don't know if that was swelling from the heat or, I don't know. But the front door would not open. And I had a moment of thinking I was going to die and just surrendering to it. And we were just completely surrounded by fire, every direction except for one, the bedroom that we had just come out of. And after I surrendered to it, I had a thought, and I kicked into VR trooper mode. And I remembered that I literally did. I feel like I was a VR trooper in an episode in that particular day, because the way that it happened was like, oh, Jesus, that's right, Oprah. And I had seen a show on Oprah literally like 6 days, a week before the fire, where these women had been horribly abused by different people sneaking into their homes. And her whole story was about how you had to have a way out of your bedroom. You had to know how to get out and have a cell phone in there with you. And it left such a traumatizing effect on me. And because I was feeling threatened and in danger because of Shuki Levy, it really stuck. And I went around my house and I watched, for the first time in the 3 months I lived there, I marked where all the windows were and how I would get out if someone came in. That's how scared I was.
So,
And so in that moment, in an instant, I remembered the bedroom window. I ran into the bedroom with my girlfriend, Gwen, following me. And she's hyperventilating because she doesn't live there. So she doesn't know how to get out, you know? And I'm like a VR trooper. That's just how I felt. I grabbed a leather vase. There was nothing else in the bedroom that we could have used, but there was a leather vase. Like, what? How does that even happen? I don't know what else we've possibly broken the windows. I really don't, because the whole thing happened. The fire department said within 7.5 minutes that the entire apartment, 2 bedrooms and 2 baths, was gutted. So much so that nothing came out of it. I got nothing back after the fire except a jewelry box that was 3 inches by 1 inch. And inside was a gold cross, a silver cross, and my great-grandmother's earrings. Now, they blamed my great-grandmother's antique lamp for starting this fire. And I will tell you that I really don't believe that that's what caused the fire. But I can say is that the arson investigator interrogated us as soon as we arrived to the hospital. And we were told that a fireman was injured in the blaze, and he was also there in the hospital. And the arson investigator's first words to me were, "Is there any reason you can think of why someone would to kill you?" And my first words out of my mouth were, "Shuki Levy." As far as I understand, the arson investigator never interviewed Shuki Levy and closed out the case saying that my great-grandmother's antique lamp wasn't plugged into a surge protector. But what caused the surge in the first place?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Wait, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't get it. I didn't get any look at the insurance investigation, which he made over $100,000 fire. From what I understand, he sold the apartment, then got it out to his friend and my agent, who acted as his pimp. And I can get into more detail with that at some point when someone asks, but I will just leave it at that. So they profited from the fire. The person who profited from it, besides Shuki, was, as far as I understand, was this agent who was able to purchase the apartment for a lot less because it was burned to the ground. There was an insurance settlement to rebuild it. And I know that agent also, he was an agent with a company that used to be owned by the person who founded my high school. So the Los Angeles County High School for the Performing Arts was founded by the same woman that agent bought the agency from. And so I also know that her husband specialized in insurance and fire. So, for me, there are a lot of questions about that fire, because when I said to Shuki, "I'm going to tell the world who you really are," it was after coming off of a horrifically violent experience with them. And with Shuki. And I have no way of knowing at this point whether or not Haim Saban involved, but I can say that they were in the middle of a very giant financial deal, and that what was going on between Shuki and I was not something they wanted disclosed. And we got to a point where it was coming to a head, and I was sent out of the country to shoot a movie I had no lines in. All I had to do was fall on my stomach and be shot in my stomach, and I was pregnant at the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
so
that's
what
not
I said. I'm going
suspicious
to
at
tell
all.
the world.
Yeah.
Tell the world about, and then just within months, I'm jumping out of this burning building. So right after him saying that, so I will say this about that fire: they framed themselves really badly. Having the bodyguard years later, I know his ex-wife, and she told me that he put a gun to her head, threatened to kill her. So I don't have any doubts now about who I was dealing with then, but at the time I was 21. And the idea that this person actually would go there, you'd rather believe almost anything else. Now, it was my first instinct, but he worked on my instincts. And he's a very manipulative person. I have all of these letters that he's written me, and I hired an actor to read them so that I can like literally play for the world who Shuki is in his own words.
I
So
think,
that I don't have to spend so much of my time telling people, but rather they can hear for themselves.
yeah, folks, straight honest, she showed us an early preview of these recordings. I've listened mostly to them, but I actually couldn't even finish them because to hear what this son of a bitch had to say in these letters made me absolutely sick. And I am a tough bastard. I can take a lot. And this made me sick to my stomach to try to listen
And
to
in
this shit.
context, in context, knowing that he's actually got all these other women and he's really just trying to separate me from my family and isolate me and get me to quit my job and won't allow me to buy property. So those are the kinds of things. And that my dad gave me a book called Conversations with God. My dad was a minister. I grew up in a very religious family, a very, very religious family. And, for a period of time, my parents lived on a hippie commune that was a Christian commune. And my brother was born on it. So my dad was really a Jesus freak for most of my life, if you will. And the fact that my dad had given me the book Conversations with God just put Shuki into a tailspin. He was beside himself, that my father just goes on and on and on and on. And so I think from that perspective, too, those letters are really eye-opening for people to understand who we're dealing with, who I've been dealing with. And I will say that all the way through this, and especially towards the point where I knew I was going to try to get away from him, or I did already get away from him, I called Cheryl Saban, Haim Saban's wife, and I spoke with her. And I let her know what was going on. And she did not offer. In fact, she said that she could not be involved and would not be involved. And so she left me high and dry. And I am telling you that I suspected that he tried to kill me on more than one occasion. And I can say that for a woman who dedicates so much of her life to women's causes and, who herself has been through things with men, it was incredibly disappointing and upsetting for me that, she'll parade around town and they'll give millions and millions and millions of dollars to the rape treatment center, but their own employees are shoving tongues and other things inside of women. And in one case, Shuki shoved his finger into my rectum, into my anus, into my a-hole. What can I say on radio? While I was personally speaking to the President of the United States, Bill Clinton. And I wasn't listening, just listening with a group of people. I was in conversation with the president when this finger was inserted into my butt from Shuki. And
Haim was there, right? He watched the whole thing, didn't he?
No, he did not. What Haim did and what Bill Clinton did is they stood in front of me.
Oh.
Shuki was behind me.
Okay.
So he wasn't standing behind me. He was standing next to me, but his hand was around my back, or around my side, and then slipped down onto my ass, into my butt. And so I didn't believe that Haim saw it. The question I have now, that at the time I didn't know any of the allegations against Bill Clinton. At the time I didn't know any of the things I know as now that has Google, that can, watch some of the interviews and things for herself. So now I wonder if I was humiliated on purpose. I really do. I will say that I don't know, but I know during the time that I was working for Saban, my cousin, there was a mass shooting on a base in Fairfield, Connecticut, and my cousin shot the mass shooter right between the eyes at 70 yards with a pistol, and he was given the Presidential Medal of some valor or something by President Clinton. So, all these years later, knowing what I now know about all the different parties, all I know is that I was humiliated and I burst into tears. My eyes welled up with tears and I just barely could keep it together. And it was so horrible. Embarrassing. I left him very soon after this. I'm sure everybody's wondering, but I did, and I just don't know. Haim absolutely did not see it unless he watched the tape, which I would say that we were in Haim Saban's private library, and President Clinton was there to raise money for Al Gore's presidential bid. And this is after Monica Lewinsky, I believe, all that. So I don't know, to what degree the president had been impeached at that point. I'd have to look into all that a little bit more. But I feel that it's in the public interest to tell these stories. And my daughter being 21 now is part of the reason, is the majority of the reason. These are stories that matter. Haim Saban is the highest contributor ever to the Democratic National Party. And if he's not still, he held that title for decades. He's personally given the Clintons millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, I feel very strongly that it is in public interest that people talk about this, and that, that there's more investigation into some of these things. Like I allege, I will say that I worked on a show, VR for them, that had a budget of $700,000 an hour. But during the pilot, I was given a roll of toilet paper and told to take a hike in the woods to use the bathroom.
Yeah, also the difference is that they actually tried to nail Clinton for his wrongdoings. Shuki's still out there walking free.
Correct. In 2016, he's got his arm around Anderson, CNN, and he's being given an award for like his work with what really upset me about that is it's for the Einstein Foundation. And I think Einstein would roll over in his grave because I'm dyslexic. And Einstein was dyslexic. And you got this motherfucker is going to be up here now working with the Einstein Foundation. I mean, I just am beside myself about it because I feel like that I'm not allowed to tell my story, that nobody's really allowed me to have my voice other than just myself self-publishing. And it matters. You should not have a person like Shuki continuously being given awards, and he's got a museum in Israel at the base of Masada. So he's looked upon as this really great guy, and I have to beg to differ. I really have to beg to differ about both, and Cheryl Saban, because in my experience with them, which were numerous, in another instance, he spit in my face while I was holding our daughter, and said, "I'm going to take away everything you love one by one." And folks, I have watched him for 20 years do exactly that. To the point where he got Jackie Z, played my mom on General Hospital. He got her husband to work for him so that when I went to Jackie and I said, "Jackie, will you stand up for me? Will you tell the truth?" She said, No, I can't, because my husband worked for him and he's asked me not to get involved. That's the woman who plays my mother. I mean, the man hit me at every possible level as low as he.
Yeah, trust me. And actually, I was going to lead me to my next question because later on, while you were working at General Hospital, obviously, you having to deal with all this reported it like a person should, like everyone tells you to do. And how did that work?
Well, I should have known better, what I think. Now I can look on Google and find these quotes of Haim Saban telling, Bob Iger, "Oh, thanks for buying my company for $5 billion, Bob." And I have to realize that there are bottom lines at these massive companies, and it doesn't matter how many Emmys, how loyal you are to your company, because at that point I'd never stepped outside and I guess I had done another soap, but it was a very short term 6-month stint on a show that didn't exist anymore, which was As the World Turns. At the point that I brought up, I had always talked about these things on set, but at the point that I went to Bob Guza, who's our head writer, and then further went to Brian Franz, who was the president of ABC Daytime, two things happened. Saban's content was sold to, I believe it was either sold back to Haim at that point, or it was first sold to Nick, at CBS, because it went over to Nick Jr., the Saban content. And so their content was dropped and I was dropped. And curiously, it was CBS that asked me if I would come work for them. And I think that it's very well established. I mean, I will definitely say that in my experience in entertainment, I'm no longer working because it's been so horrifying to have huge bullies like Les Moonves, who I've never met in my life and have no reason whatsoever to have prevented me from or taken me out of jobs that I had already been given, or prevent me on the day of, from being able to test for it or from being given the job again and again and again. Leslie Moonves, who I'd never met, but he was super close with Haim Saban. There's no reason for that man to come after me. I've never worked for him. But he continuously, from the point that Shuki and I left Shuki and Shuki sued me for full custody, claiming that I was a drug addict and I don't know how I had time to do all these drugs he claimed I did, while I was showing up every day to General Hospital and winning Emmys, for God's sake. But he said I was just all these crazy things. And in the end of that,
we
I got
should
a restraining order against him, and it was all proven false. He tested positive for drugs and I did not.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
the irony right there. We should stop. Yeah, you want the irony? She's being accused. Yeah, Sarah Brown's being accused.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. He had to pay $65,000 of my legal fees, but because he created such a shitstorm, basically, the court didn't know which way to turn between the things he said, and they were just all false. They were systematically false from the get-go, which is why I think in the end the judge just threw it out. He just said no.
Yeah, and on top of that, we should mention,
and
you mentioned Shuki being the one that was actually tested for. I have on screen part of the documentation showing this. Yeah, quote, I should note, it is interesting that Shuki is complaining about Sarah's drug and alcohol use, yet he's the one who came out with a positive marijuana result, albeit low.
Right, and I will say this. That was the second. So that was the second time he sued me for full custody, and it's talking about during the first suit for full custody. So he did it again. He just did the exact same thing a second time in 2006. And because he could, that's the bottom line is if you have joint custody with someone, if you have a child with them, just be very, really understand that if you have a child with someone, they're in your life for a very long time and you have to deal with it. There's no getting away from them. And they're allowed to sue you once a year, every year to find out, to get an income and expense, to find out exactly how much money you're making. And that allows them to look through all of your finances. So they get to know every single dime you spend on what. I mean, that's ridiculous. You have an abuser, and he's able to look through my finances every single year of my life. And every time I would get a new boyfriend or something, he would. He would just sue as his way of trying to abuse. When I finally got away from him, he did several things. It's just sue. But that person who wrote that quote, I want to mention, I think, it says in the YouTube video that that he's conducted over 800 child custody evaluations, and that's who that quote. And he's a PhD and everything else. And he was hired mutually by Shuki and I both. But he noted that because it's notable that somebody shouldn't be able to just continue suing you when they've been impeached once, but they are. That's the law. They're allowed to keep on coming. So I don't know. What else should we talk about?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Actually, there is one other thing we should bring up that we haven't talked about yet. It is part of that surveillance, the recordings.
Yeah. Of the phone conversations in and out of the house, or the recording of the deposition. Yes. Yeah, so Shuki said that he said during his deposition, when we took his deposition, my lawyer asked him, was he recording my phone conversations? Because what happened was I found an entire box of tapes with dates on them while he was out of the country. And I looked through his things, which I had never done before. But when I found out the man was lying to me, I went through everything. And this is how I found stuff. I found things that will really shock people. But one of the more tame things I found, all these audio tapes that you would stick into a boombox with dates on them. They did not play in a regular boombox. So I was able to locate a machine that also played tapes in his things that was not a regular boombox. When I put the tapes in, sure enough, they played. And it was my phone conversations, all of them. Conversations going back for months. my dad. And so I want everyone to know that from the time I was 19 years old, this man told me that he was a psychic. And he would come out with things that were just so incredibly, almost word for word, things that I would talk about with my dad. And I had no idea how he was doing it. Well, this is how he was doing it. He was literally recording our conversations, listening to them, and then figuring out ways to drive a wedge between my dad and I, downright putting his foot down about conversations with God. But one of the other things that I found, which really upset and disturbs me to this day, and that I really want to bring up, and is part of the reason I'm speaking out, is I'm hoping that some news organization out there in the world will write this story, because this actually happened to me, and you don't hear about it a lot. But if it could happen to me, it can happen to anyone. You'd think that I have resources, people around me who protect me, and no, none of those things ended up being true, and it can happen to anyone. And what happened was, I found a door, basically a Harry Potter door in Shuki's office, that you inserted a key into this bookshelf, and the bookshelf had wheels on the bottom of it, and it pulled open. I was pregnant with my daughter, Jordan, at the time. When it pulled open, I was in a bathroom. I went into this room, and it was a bathroom, previously a bathroom that they had closed off. I never knew it was there the entire time I lived in the house. And what I saw in there were a number of things, but most disturbing for me was that he had surveillance going on all throughout the house. I was able to see the guest bedroom where I kept my clothes and where my best friend spent the night all the time. And who knows what she did in there in her private moments. It had a bathroom in there connected to the bedroom. And I was suddenly staring at that bedroom on surveillance camera inside his house. So I want everyone out there to understand that this man had a surveillance system inside his house, including in the bedrooms, without my knowledge. And that he taped my phone conversations, he taped all conversations in and out of his. He admits it in his deposition. He says he's doing that because Haim Saban told him to. And he said Haim Saban told him to do that because the company was getting a lot of threats. So I have something to say, which is that if Shuki Levy doesn't know who burned my house down, I mean, if he didn't do it, he might know who did. There were definitely a lot of things going on around this company that were dangerous and scary, and really hard to fathom at 21. So, so he had that. And I will tell you that many, many years later, in 2005, Shuki Levy walked into my house that I owned solely alone and bought for myself when I was 26 years old. And he walked in there to see our daughter was sick and had been up the night before. And I was telling him a story about what happened the night before. And I was walking down the hallway as well. And I said, and she was like hallucinating. I was talking about Jordan. And he pointed up at the ceiling behind me and right outside of my bedroom door. He pointed up to the ceiling and he said, I know, I saw. Then he dropped his arm. Then he turned like sheet white. Then every bit of his body language told me that he had done the same thing inside my house.
Oh my God.
That he did inside his house. And I want you to understand that I finally moved out of that house in 2015 because I was having privacy issues inside of the house. As in,
now we can add in the privacy to rap
inside
sheet.
your home. And when I moved out, I came back to the house after moving out of it, and someone had gone inside that house and pulled out whatever equipment was in there. So I have two different witnesses. I had a handyman who was working on the house at the time, who's actually someone I've worked with for like 9 years. And he just painted all the ceilings and everything. What we found were holes drilled all through our house, through my house and Jordan's. One in my office above my computer, and the whole entire ceiling was caved in. One in the hallway right outside of my bedroom, which is exactly where he had pointed up to the ceiling and said, I know, I saw. So with all of the rest of it, it presents a very different picture than I think, maybe it's just not something you've ever heard of, because I know I haven't. I have not known anyone in my life who's been through anything like this, but this happened to me, and I've been really desperately trying so hard to speak up and say, God, I mean, how many things does a woman have to go through? How many things? I had a person who worked with the FBI but was not an FBI agent in my home before we found those holes, telling me again and again and again, there's a third internet running out of your house. There is a third internet running out of your house. And I'm going, no, I have 2 internet. There are 2 only. So I tell you that what I believe is that somebody connected to Shuki Levy put a Wi-Fi camera system into the ceilings of my house, including in my closet, in my office, my computers, in the hallway outside my daughter and my bedroom, and I don't know where. And I can tell you that he had means, he had motive, and he had access.
There's no question at this point. Jesus.
Yeah,
Well, there's plenty of questions. I would love for someone to step in here and give me a logical and rational explanation for how all of these things, together happened. But that's not, the case. I don't have any evidence other than what I'm telling you, about those particular things. But I can tell you that this person who told me there was a third internet running out of my house, we did take a MAC address of whatever the equipment was that was broadcasting from the house. But I truly believe that it was a Wi-Fi surveillance camera because of my experience of invasion of privacy inside my home. And because of his experience with running surveillance on me, his previous behavior of doing it, and because I saw him do it in 2 of his homes. So on another occasion, he basically kidnapped our daughter. He took her for a vacation and he refused to bring her back. And so I got on a plane and I flew down there to bring her home. And it was a very large mansion that he had in Miami. And, we weren't on very good terms, but we were cordial enough that I could stay in the house. He had a girlfriend at the time who was like 21. And she was living with him there. They were staying there. And our daughter had a room. And so he gave me a room right next to our daughter's room. And I thought, fine, I arrived really late. I'll wake up in the morning with our daughter and we'll fly out of here. And it's not a problem. So after everyone went to bed, I went downstairs and I walked into the office there and I sat behind his desk and I clicked on his computer to just get on the internet. And when I clicked on his computer, what popped up on his screen were 12 little boxes. And again, it was a surveillance system. I saw the other person who was staying in the house, his friend, in his room, stretching on camera on his fucking computer. So I'm pretty sure his friend didn't know. And I will tell you that he had told me that his intention was to rent that place out to me. Oh. So I feel a little like, listen, someone needs to look into these things because it's not okay. He didn't rent it out. He did not end up doing that. But I don't know that he didn't privately rent it out. That there weren't occasions when other people rented it. I don't know. What I know
filming
is
other people too.
What I know is that he did not tell me that there was surveillance inside of the house. So I didn't, I wasn't able to close those windows on his computer. So I know he knows that I saw it because I went back to bed and I got dressed in the shower with the lights off so that he would, yet again have me on camera naked, stripping my clothes off. Cause I just, oh. Yeah. So this is what, became a VR. These are pretty dark stories. I don't know a lot of people who go through stuff, jumping out of burning buildings. I mean, I'm giggling because as we all talked about, you have to laugh at this. You have to.
Yeah.
Or you just fall down. You don't get back up. The man kicked me and kicked me and kicked me and kicked me and kicked me while I was down. And he's had a lot of help, a lot of people in entertainment. A lot. Every
it's funny
company that I've spoken out to them about Shuki, every single time they have fired me. And I have only ever been fired from a job as a result of speaking out against Shuki Levy. Literally, I got fired from, Bold and the Beautiful. Going to my publicity person and telling her, there's domestic violence going on. I need someone I can talk to. And she emailed through the company. There's domestic violence, going on, and Sarah needs resources. Well, I was right away. And I told her that. I sat down and said, I will be doing that. I was in tears, and I walked out of her office, and what do you know? Well, we just don't know where the character's going anymore. And so there's been a lot of cover-up is what I feel. And I think that these two are so incredibly politically connected that there isn't really a way for me to, I can't outspend them. I'm just a little David and they're Goliath. And I've never taken it. I've never shut up. The minute that I left this person, he has savagely after me. Horribly, just absolutely, out for the kill. And in every instance, I tried to put things, just in perspective, just try to be parents raising a child together, forgive. I'm sure he didn't really try to kill me, all of these things. But when you have 20 years of it and you look back, it's undeniable that it's very hard to dismiss this stuff as all just being coincidence.
Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely.
Sarah,
Real quick, Ace, I'm just going to say, once is random,
okay.
Twice is coincidence, 3 times or more, that's a pattern, and it is very clear there's a pattern. Ace, you were saying?
Yeah, and I can say there were at least 6 women that I know of. So I know of other people that worked at Power Rangers that he did it to, and then I know of other women who did not work at Power Rangers, but whom he said he was going to procure work for. And he, began affairs with them and various other things. But as far as I understand, I'm the only one that he's become that he became stuck on and obsessed with and just couldn't let it go.
Well, Sarah, I know I speak for everybody here, everybody watching when I say I'm glad you are okay through all this, persevered. This is honestly incredible just to hear. And I know everybody in the chat I can see is just
They're shocked.
Dumb shock.
How do you... you guys, in 2016, I was roofied and raped. So, with his history of surveilling me, I have a really hard time feeling as if, it's impossible that I wasn't targeted.
No, absolutely.
I can't say, but I can tell you that the DA lost my case for 3 months. Just lost it. Didn't know where it went. Just disappeared. And so again, like you said, things happen, but wow, I really can point to a pattern here of people trying to make sure I don't talk.
Well, that's why are willing to give you that voice, because, admittedly, we are a small group of people. We, even right now, this stream has 32 viewers, which actually is really good for us, to be honest. But we'll have the video. We'll take the recording of this and post it on YouTube like we always do. So this will be out there for good.
Right. That's the point, is just to get it out there. It's not really, and also it doesn't matter if you have 32 people. If the right person hears the story and they have something to add to or share on their own, that's how things change.
Exactly.
It'll snowball.
If
snowball.
someone hears this and goes, oh, shit, I had this experience where I thought he did that to me, surveilled me, or put cameras in my house, or tried to kill me, or any of those things. That's how things, get re-looked at. So hopefully we've got somebody out there listening that, has the ability to either speak up and or speak out.
If not,
we get enough exposure to this, it'll catch on.
Which is why the chat's already got the right idea. I want everyone watching this tonight, when the VOD goes up, and Matty, I'm going to encourage you to put this out there immediately after the show.
As soon as we are done with this program, and I'm able to do so, it is going up tonight.
Yes.
And when this goes up on YouTube, and Deshint, I see you in there in the chat as well. He's got a good audience. He will be linking this. Spread this out. Once it goes up on YouTube, we will link you guys to it. We'll post it on our Twitter. Link this video out to as many people as you can. Go to every community that is willing to let you post it and get the word out, because this needs to be heard. That is
Go to the Ranger sites. Go to the Ranger sites. Go to the Toku News sites. Go to the fans, because the fans with grassroots political
That's right.
moves,
That's right.
we can
That's
get this spread. We can spread this, and we can get this to enough people that the right person will see it.
And
more people will see it. More victims will see it.
And
Bill Cosby didn't get away with it.
Honest to God,
right.
Honestly, I believe in the 11th commandment, Sarah. You mentioned the Bible earlier. I believe in the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not get away with it.
That's right. I mean, this is just, it's egregious. I think people, they have children together and then they don't agree and they have fights and so forth and so on. But I've never, ever talked to anyone whose ex carried on the way that mine has. And also to have started the relationship in the way that he did. And for me to know that yes, there's a pattern. There are a lot of other women that had these experiences with him. And I think I was special in the sense that I didn't have a support system. I mean, I have parents, but they just weren't in a position to really, I didn't have a father who had me, and my mom had very poor health. So there was nowhere for me to run immediately. I didn't have something that would be safe and get me away from them. So I think that it might be part of the reason why he kept coming at me. But I do feel like there might be other people out there. There might be someone who rented, the Miami place from him and had no idea there were cameras in all the rooms. Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead, Ace.
I think a big thing everybody needs to understand as well is like spreading this. If someone says it's uncomfortable, good. It should be.
Make them.
Do not let them brush this off as, oh, it's none of my business, or this is really too serious. Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, it is serious, and I feel like at what point does it ever stop?
Yep.
When you get involved with people like this, that you actually have to question your physical safety at all times, and whether or not you're constantly under surveillance, even in your own home. Kind of psychological toll that took on me. It's impossible for me to even begin to try to explain it to somebody who's not been through it, because it just literally, it's the kind of shaming you just for being in your own body or for speaking in your own home alone to yourself. It's really been hard to get over. So,
well, you deserve justice. And don't forget the hashtag when you're spreading this post. Hashtag justice for Sarah.
Amen
that's
to that.
Really very kind of you.
Hey,
we do what we can.
That's actually been the goal of this interview tonight on our end, is that to help you understand, and I'm sure you already do to some extent, but to help you realize that, yes, you didn't have the strong support structure internally. You didn't have, your parents could only be there so much. You didn't have the right friends that could be there for you, but you do have a support system now. You have us. You have the fans. And when you put out that initial Facebook post that got our attention, the big thing was that you were boycotting Power Rangers and not going to any conventions. And I'm of two minds of that. On the one hand, I completely understand. You would rather not associate yourself with any aspect of that after everything you've been through. Understandable. However, I'd like to throw out a counterpoint, and a reasonable one, because this is why I think you should, at the very least, maybe not go to something like Morphicon, the official quote-unquote convention. I can understand that.
Yeah, I can. Because everyone there wants to talk about how amazing Saban is. Like, what am I supposed to say?
But
well,
at the same time, I understand. At the same time, after this story starts spreading,
jumping out a lot of
after this story spreads, once this story gets out there and it starts picking up some steam, I would then encourage you to go to some of the other conventions out there. We have a con out here in Orlando, the one that you said you replied to, Ranger Stop. They're not an official convention. They're run by other Power Rangers actors, in fact. They just recently started running that.
You might know some of them.
Yes.
Right.
Nakia Varese and Karen Ashley are helping to run that con right now. So they might be willing to help you get, and set something up so that you can meet with the fans. And I'll guarantee you, I will bet you my entire value as a person, monetarily, if you were to break down my monetary value, I would bet every single penny of it.
How much are you worth?
Not much. Not even gonna swing at that one.
I couldn't put a number out there because
let me check what my account says.
Okay, you know what? I'll make this little. I'll bet the entire value of my life from beginning to end, every penny that I've ever have been worth and ever will be worth. That might be a little more to say.
Okay.
If you go to one of those cons and you meet some of your fans, some of the people who watched you in VR Troopers, I guarantee you at some point, someone is going to come up to you and tell you a story about how they inspired you. Or how you inspired them, I should say. How you inspired them and made them a better person because of what you did on that show. And that moment will get you.
But I get that. I get that everywhere. I don't have to go to a Comic-Con to have that experience. I will say that the reason I have stayed away from them is primarily because I wasn't able to talk about these things until my daughter was an adult. And I was legally not able to talk about a lot of it until she was over 18. But then just for the sake of, just so that she could fully get to the point of adulthood before, and I could have a chance to talk to her about it first, which I've done now. I just, I couldn't say anything. I felt muzzled by the fact that I was an actress, and that if I spoke out publicly, as in not to my boss or my co-stars or on the set, but actually went to the public and went to the fans and said, here's how General Hospital did me when I left. I ended up with neck surgery 3 months later because they knew that I broke my neck on VR Troopers, but they kept making me hit the ground again and again and again and again until I had some real issues, and everything felt very personal every time I've spoken up at one of these companies. So, nobody wants to go to a Power Rangers convention and talk about sexual assault at all. I don't think people pay for that. So I'd rather do it like this. I want the fans to know, because I don't want to keep seeing this guy being given awards and, snuggling up with people who I know have a lot more integrity than he's got in his pinky, without them knowing who they're standing next to. And if you know now, and then you want to stand up next to him, then you should explain yourself. That's what I feel. So,
I agree. I agree. No, I
like the story
agree.
to get out.
Sarah, the fact that
it doesn't have to be this year or even next year. We're talking eventually.
Way down the line. Way down the line.
Once
but the fact that, Sarah, you keep getting up after getting knocked down so many times proves that you were really a hero.
Yeah.
That you were really a hero.
That's Thank you. I appreciate that.
We're talking about once this is finally out there and exposed. I mean, obviously tonight is literally just the beginning of that. But once that starts getting out there and people start talking about it and people finally start doing something about it, then you can go out there and you can still showing people how you can overcome that, how you can be a real hero. I mean, that fire story, that was you being a true hero in that moment.
100%. 100%.
You could carry that. You could run with that.
100%. And I do. I tell that story. Listen, I do. I tell the story all the time because it's an incredible story. What we went through, we had 7.5 minutes to get out. And had I not seen the Oprah show, I never would have gotten out of there. For me, I feel like it was a bona fide miracle. And I have always credited my dog as who woke my friend up. So my dog saved our lives, and I rescued him 9 months before this happened. And it was actually Shuki who pointed him out to me because I was looking for a puppy, and he wanted to buy me a puppy. And I said, no, I want to adopt a puppy. And he pointed this dog out. He gave me an article in the LA Times and said, they have the kind of dog you want, and they're up for rescue. I rescued the dog, and 9 months later, he saved our lives. So,
broken clock is right twice a day. So there's that.
Everything about that story is incredible, and it was an incredible experience to go through, to have a near-death experience like that, and to live through it.
I think I can quote Dr. Phil for that entire story with just, "God bless you, Oprah."
100%. Yeah.
Also, I should make a note. Our buddy, one of our producers, Zeltrax Millennium, is in the chat, and he is saying he does custom figures and stuff. He is going to make you a custom figure of Caitlin Starr in suit and ship it to you for free as a way of saying thanks.
That's so nice. Thank you.
That's the power of your fans, Sarah.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
That's the fandom at work.
Yeah,
that's really sweet.
Zeltrax.
Speaking of which,
it's obviously not the fans. The reason I don't show up at Comic-Cons. It's just been this. It's really been this. It's just been that. Oh, I'm going to get asked an awkward question, and just not wanting. I'm thinking Comic-Cons are all they're Saban supported and initiated. I was thinking, I guess.
No.
Oh, you got nothing to worry about with
Morphicon, maybe, because that. Well, and to be fair, Power Rangers is now in Hasbro's hands. And I would say give it a couple years, and Saban will be out of it completely. I think he's just now consulting at most.
Yeah.
Eventually,
but the
he's
thing
gonna have
is
to
that Hasbro is just the latest company to acquire this cash cow, where they haven't paid any of their employees except for that very initial thing. And I will say that I was, present at Shuki Levy's house when the president of SAG came over to make a deal between Haim Saban, Shuki, and SAG, or the vice president of SAG. And they made a deal wherein I did not hear it for myself, but I heard from Shuki that they made a deal with SAG whereby they gave a donation. And I don't know if it was to the president's reelection campaign, not the president of the United States, but the president of SAG. And that at that point, Saban was allowed 5 more years of non-union. And that's corruption. That's just straight up corruption.
That is.
So nobody wants me to talk about these things. And I'm sorry. I'm going to keep talking about them because someone tried to kill us. I'm not,
You're not going to let that slide, and we don't want you to. We want you to speak up.
I'm not going to let that stop me. So, yeah, I mean, that's just corruption. It just is. And it was back in, this is back when, the finger is going up the anus, those years. So it's a very long time ago. And those are a lot of actors who would otherwise probably be doing okay, but people who have to work at McDonald's because they didn't get paid a single residual for every episode that aired on Netflix now, Nick Jr. or on Disney or on Fox. They didn't make a dime. They made their first initial salary. They were non-union. And Saban was allowed to continue doing non-union business for 5 years while they were making billions. So it's wrong. It's 100% wrong. And the only people lost were the ones who had nothing to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and,
and
we have made it very clear in our time on this podcast that even when the show is at its absolute worst, we support the actors. There's literally only one actor in Power Rangers history that we do not support, and that's because he stole from charity. I don't know if you've ever heard that. I think I mentioned. Yeah, I mentioned a man named Samuel Benta in our conversation.
Yes.
What he did was this. He was from Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. This was during when Disney was running the show. They were at the very first Power Morphicon, and they had 4 banners that they were going to have signed by actors and then auctioned off for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Samuel Benta took one of those banners, got it signed by as many people as he could, and then kept it for himself and has never given it back.
Oh my goodness. Why? Why? What would be the point? What is the point of stealing from charity? That's terrible.
Exactly. So he's the only actor we have ever thrown under the bus. Every other actor, no matter what they've done, has never reached that level of fuck him.
Yeah,
we always supported the actors.
I will say that I had a great experience with Mike and with Brad. We all got along like gangbusters. We were like brother sisters. And I had 2 accidents on the set. One where Brad crashed into me with his Sea-Doo and contuted my leg down to the bone. I couldn't walk for literally. And the other one where I broke my neck from the stunt, doing the stunts. And other than those little hiccups, Brad and I have remained close. And I still talk to him. He knows all these stories. And he still shows up at the Comic-Cons. But I don't hold it against people who need to make a living. And I get that. I'm not really trying to make a statement to tell people that they should, in any way bring any backlash against the performers. It's the performers who lost out in the beginning. We are the modern day Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
So every person it's true. That is the truth. They were able to go for years and years and years and not pay residuals on anything on all of these people. And Saban has you sign a contract. I'm with an agent that's embezzling. First of all, my agent was caught in Vegas with all clients embezzling. Was kicked out of the industry, completely kicked out of the industry. But that agent had me sign a contract that said basically that Saban owned my likeness in perpetuity throughout the universe. And I'm like, wow, you're going so far. I mean, I'm 18. Do we really need to sign away my life? But that's how they did it. And that is why the product was so valuable for all these companies, because they don't have to pay anyone else anything. And as you guys know, Haim became a billionaire and he became incredibly politically powerful or important with that money.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I think that's the only reason he gained political powerful, because
That's 100% right. You're right.
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody really cared about his opinion.
No, I don't think anybody
the man who
does,
got
but
rich
his
off
money.
of
Yeah.
localizing Japanese spandex superheroes.
Yeah,
No,
basically stole his idea.
100%. And I will say that Al Gore, particularly Lieberman, were really against violence when Al Gore was running. And so that didn't bode well for Power Rangers, but Clinton, didn't have any issue with the show or with Haim, apparently. So, yeah, I don't think he would have any political power, and I don't think any of these have happened to me, even a quarter of them, had these guys not had the political power. That's what I meant when I said I was looking at them thinking I didn't have anything to worry about. I didn't know that they were connected the way that they are.
It's okay. Saban's movies suck now anyway.
Yeah, but that's not even... I think the point is that I would say to other women out there, if you're in a situation like I was in and guy that you don't know very much about and they force themselves on you, just make sure that that's the last time he forces himself on you. Go out and get the police involved, because I called the police on Shuki when he spit in my face, and they came to help escort me and my daughter off his property, and they asked me if I would like to press charges against him, and I said no, because I did not want my daughter's father to have a criminal record. So I deeply, deeply, deeply regret it. I deeply regret it. And I wish and hope to God that somebody out there listening has a way to get that tape and put it on the air, because I think it says a lot about what was going on at the time. But yeah, I would say to anybody who gets themselves in that situation, if a guy steals your phone, don't call the, don't press charges on him maybe. But if he hacks your phone and follows you around, and I'm not saying that Shuki did that. I don't know if he did that, but I suspect that I more than suspect he did surveillance on me. He absolutely did. But at the time, I don't know if he was messing with my cell phone, and I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
So, but I would just say to any other woman that's a man who's in that situation, if you feel that, in any way that you might potentially be in over your head, get out. You're not as tough as you think you are.
Never.
Yeah.
Especially when you're going to get something like that. But let's try to end this on a more positive note, because despite all of that, you mentioned you did have some fun times working with Brad and Michael on VR Troopers. And
I did. I loved them.
So we had to have some good stories.
A lot of our crew as well. Oh yeah, literally. I loved so many of our crew. I'm still really close to the AD who followed me around the bathroom and banged on the door to get me to come out after literally I'm in there just peeing for 1 minute. They need you. They need you. They need you. So we're really good friends, and we all laugh about stuff. I don't know if you guys ever heard the YouTube video that Michael Soren and the other ADR guys did, where Brad is cussing, and it's myself and Brad and the Scuggs and Mike Bacon, Mike Hollander, I think he goes by now.
Yeah, Mike Hollander.
And and Mitch Gould, who played Ryan Steele in costume. Who was my boyfriend that whole time, by the way. The guy who played Ryan Steele. The stunt. He wasn't the stunt coordinator. He was the
suit actor.
Assistant.
Suit actor.
No, he was the assistant stunt coordinator of our show.
Oh, okay.
He was a Muay Thai guy, and he was my boyfriend.
Just got to Ryan Steele was my boyfriend.
He's one of my favorite boyfriends I've ever had. He's the best in every possible way. And so I went from him to Shuki, and he was literally the nicest guy ever. So
I kind of want to see that video now where they're all cursing up a storm.
It's hysterical.
We have not seen it.
This is new to me.
We'll have to look this up.
I'll definitely find it and send it to you.
Yes.
I mean, it's
Please do.
completely outrageous. It's all cussing and it's outrageous. It's really good. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. I mean, those guys were never on set, so we had a lot of fun. It was stressful. We did 4 episodes every 11 days. And we did our own stunts, except in the the really extreme cases. And then also had an entire stunt doing second unit all the time. But, I didn't do the aerials down the staircases, but I did the fight scene. And so, we got beat up, and I got beat up pretty good.
Yeah.
Fun. It was still fun. It was a job. Kid.
Speaking of fighting, I actually had a question about that, Sarah. because a long time ago in a video, I did I guess you could say a commentary or a review of one of the promos for VR Troopers that was on several Power Rangers VHS tapes. And there's one scene that's missing from an episode that I really wish was in an episode. It's the one where the smart-ass kid in the karate class says that girls shouldn't do karate. They should be in the kitchen, and then you show up and kick Ryan Steele's ass.
Oh, my goodness. I don't even remember that. Can I just say that I don't remember that? But
let me see if I can find the YouTube video. I'll find the YouTube videos. I was actually watching that today.
I think it's so politically incorrect now.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, I think it's kind of inspiring because this kid's saying that girls can't do karate and can't kick ass, right. And then you shut him up. I'm just like that should have been in an episode. Damn it.
Right. So you're saying they cut it out?
Yeah, because I went back and watched season 1 a while back and looking for that clip because I rewatched that video that I did. I was like, I don't remember that from an episode, and sure enough, it wasn't in any of the episodes. So. Wow. That's just like, man, that's ridiculous.
You're not dealing with feminists. Let's just make that very clear.
No. We're just strong believers in girl power and female empowerment
I'm saying
here.
From the Saban camp.
Yeah. Saban is not exactly female friendly, as we've learned tonight.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying we are.
Right. Oh, yeah. You guys definitely are. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about these things and give me the opportunity to speak to the fans of the shows. And let them know, what really goes on behind the scenes.
I'm trying to see if the fans remember that.
Shows.
Again, I think I speak for the guys when I say it's an honor.
It really is.
No, that's so kind of you.
I mean, the fact that you even were
don't
willing
be honored by me, but
too late.
Well, the fact that you were willing to come on our show at all, like. Again, reaching out to these actors is not as always easy thing, because there's agents and there's a lot of them are very protective, especially a lot of the old MMPR actors their agents are very protective of them. So to even get someone on our show.
They don't want them to say anything. That's the thing. They want them to say the wrong thing and kill their opportunities for public appearances. Saban will not work with you. If you if you say one thing, that you're done. So that's part of that protectiveness. And also, I don't know that I would have particularly jumped right into a podcast, that was specifically geared towards the Ranger fans, except that somebody sent me an invite, said, hey, do you want to go to this con? And I get them all the time. And I felt like, I need to once and for all put this out there and make it clear that I'm not part of this universe. And though I was at one point, I completely separate myself from that company. And I haven't seen anyone, I don't know anyone else who's taken that same stance that I took, but I also don't know anyone else who's been through what I've been through with. So if there is someone else out there and you're listening or that person, tell them to get in touch.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have a feeling, But I have a feeling more people want you on their podcast after this.
Yeah, once this starts spreading out, you're going to be getting a lot more attention. I suggest you be prepared for that. But the way I look at it is this: when we saw that just struck a chord with me. Seeing how you
on the video, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. So the fact that you put yourself out there and just flat out told everyone what was going on, that to us was like, okay. Why hasn't anyone told about this? And we've only ever found, we did our research when we first made the story, when we first broke the story last week, there were 2 soap opera websites that had even talked about what you'd said in the past.
No, they literally, you guys, I was kidnapped, roofied, and I was raped in 2016. I have 3 Emmys and I was nominated 6 times. Nobody has written a word about it. So you tell me.
I found 2 articles.
Does that make sense?
I found 2 articles.
That doesn't make sense. That just doesn't make sense. So you are the darling of the industry until you speak out of the hand that feeds you, I suppose. So I had to be prepared to retire, which is what I did. I haven't retired from working, but I can't expect that until I have some sort of definitive idea, really, that I'm going into people who really want to have me there and are not about anything that has to do with Saban, then I've realized that all of the major networks have really close dealings with Saban and that it's not necessarily in my best interest. It hasn't been in the past. In a lot of cases, as I've told you, I complained about what I'd been through or what I was going through at the time. So I was on Days of Our Lives and them about the privacy issues in my house before I found the holes drilled all over it, and having computer issues and telling them, and they turned around and tried to write it into the script. And when I wouldn't go for it, they fired me. That's why I left Days of Our Lives. So that is literally at the time that somebody had some equipment inside of my house and watching. That was what was coming back to me. I was getting tweets. If I was sitting in my office, I could write some paper. Some strange bot didn't have a profile picture or whatever would tweet me what I wrote on the paper privately in my office inside my house. So I tried to bring it up with bosses. No, I'd been through some very weird with the Saban people. And I, like I said, they tried to write the hack script, and I just said, no, that's not going to work for me. And they wrote me out.
Yeah,
it happened at Days. It happened on CBS. I told you I asked for domestic violence, and it happened at GH. And all of those things happened in succession. And when I was fired from Cold Case, I was told, and I was meant to know. I was told, Leslie Moonves did this to you. And they had to make sure that I.
That's disgusting. And I think that's why
it's really harsh.
I'm glad that we got to be the ones, because we have no direct connections with Saban. Yes, we are Power Rangers fans.
Hollywood. Yeah.
We have no, but again, small numbers. Nobody is looking at us.
Right.
Nobody's paying attention to us right now. Obviously, if
no one's paying us to do this, obviously.
No.
That's right. And I feel like that's the reason why you guys were so willing to do it. Because you're like, well, I wanted to show you the document, make sure you understand I can back these things up. I'm not, there are some things I'm saying that I don't like. I feel, and that's why I'm saying I feel. But there are so many things that I saw with my eyes and that I experienced. And I know that in law, if you have a credible witnessed it themselves, then that's proof.
It is.
So,
I've seen many cases go that way.
There's no reason for anyone else to want to chat about these things other than to just keep it buried.
Because they want to keep getting paid by Saban and their dirty money. But we don't have that obligation. We don't have that restriction. Correct. So we have nothing. We literally have nothing to lose by doing this and everything to gain. I know. Thank you.
You're the best. I really appreciate you talking with me, because you have nothing to gain, nothing to lose, nothing to lose from it, and only to gain what you said to me, which is like, my wife want me to do this. And I appreciate that a lot.
My wife would have probably she would have been like, you better talk to her.
I think that's amazing. Exactly. She's a woman after my own.
She is. I love her to death. I still. We've been together since 2004. Been married.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we've been married since like 2008, almost 10 years now. Over 10 years now, and I still smile every time I look at her.
I love you. You're the cutest person ever. And I really do believe in true love. And I think that's what.
Yeah, but that's why I'm also willing to stand for stuff like this. Like I said, I'm not the first to jump on a Me Too bandwagon, because I've seen plenty of times where it ends up being a complete fabrication and it's gone horribly, horribly wrong. But when I saw what you sent me, those documents, those pictures, those recordings, I was like, no, this is real. There's no way you could fake this. I'm on board.
Yeah, the reason I hired an actor to do it is I thought, well, why don't I just let him speak for himself? I don't even
let his own words hang
tell anyone. Like, let it. Well, yeah. I mean, in that sense, I feel like if I put it out there and I make it public, it reveals a lot of personal things about me, and I've been an intensely private person all of my career. However, I'm no longer in the public eye doing television, and I've retired from acting for all intent and purpose. I still have an agent, but I don't go on auditions anymore, and I do other things now. And I feel like, you just have to let him speak for himself. And then if certain people didn't realize, or if he had perhaps told a different story, which I know he did, then this is my way of clearing my name. Let him speak for himself, tell my truth and let him speak for himself. So I will be making these videos that I basically, for anybody listening, what I did was I hired an actor to read all of the many hours, I would say, of letters that Shuki wrote to me from the time I'm 20 years old until I leave him 20 or 25. And they're brutal and crazy. And it really, I think, gives you a look into his mind.
Yeah, and I will say, and this is not meant to be an offense to the guy you hired, but he does a damn good job conveying the utter
He's
cringe.
amazing. No, he's incredible.
He's great. He does it. He's very good. It's just when it comes to reading,
It's like he did his. I will say this: he did his goddamn job. I'll tell you.
Like this is not any offense.
Every bit of that.
Yeah, he does.
He did.
It's not the actor's fault. It's the words he has to read, but he does a very good job conveying the utter cringe that Shuki wrote in these letters.
Oh, he does. I know. I loved it. And he has such a good voice. He's a singer. So he has this incredible baritone. He's got such a great voice. And I really enjoy it. Otherwise, I think it would be so hard. I edited all of them myself. And so it would have been so hard for me to sit there and listen to these things. And it is still. It's troubling in a way for me to edit them and listen to them. But in a way, I think it's also cathartic in the sense that now I'm an adult, I'm in my 40s and I can listen to these and just laugh at what a dirtbag he is. And whereas when I was a kid, he was everything. He spoke 4 languages or 6 languages, and he could play all these instruments and fly helicopters. And I idolized him at the point that I fell in love with him. I completely idolized him. So when he says things about me, to me, in those letters, he literally tries to rewrite my history and tell me who I was. And little Sarah this, and little Sarah with that, and little Sarah did this. And I'm like, wait, first of all, you got your story mixed up. That must be one of your other girlfriends, some of that stuff. I'm just like, what are you even talking about? What are you even talking about? But yeah, I mean, he really, he's so cruel to me. And every night when I would get off work, he's incredibly, obsessively jealous, and he would spend hours sometimes berating me about Ingo. Did you see Ingo on the set today? Was he in your... Somebody come in your room? I know you're lying to me. Like, he had spies at General Hospital. I'm going to tell you straight out that he has people there, and that, he would sue me every year so he could stay in my life and be at the forefront of my mind. Cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. He sued me for either a modification in child support or full custody twice, and claiming that I should only supervise visitation with my daughter every Wednesday for dinner. That is what we're talking about.
Oh, Jesus.
So he came at me. He literally came at me. So these other ways that it's hard not to look at it and think, yeah, he may have actually come at you with that fire too.
Oh, Jesus. H tap dancing.
Christ. Hey, hopefully we've got some police or firemen on the line, and they would be willing to take a look at that 1996 fire on Crescent Heights that happened to me.
Again, folks, spread the word. I know we will be. We're gonna
spread the word. You never know. You never know.
Somebody somewhere might see this and go, I could look into that.
That's right. You're 100% right, and I hope that person exists. That's how everything changes.
I don't want to change the sorry go.
No. I
was just gonna say, because we could. I don't want to take this off the topic too far, but this is just a general curiosity for me, and I stayed silent because you were explaining your story and everything else. How was winning that daytime Emmy for the first time? I have to ask this.
It was, I think, shocking. I think that's the best way to put it. I was in shock. I was absolutely in shock. I don't have any question of what I know that I was in shock. It was one of those leaving your body moments, 100%. And Shuki told me that I had to thank Haim. So if you ever go back and look at that moment, you'll hear me call him Mr. Shuki Levy, because something got crossed in my brain, and that weird, this is my boss who forced himself on me and is forcing me to now thank somebody who I don't respect and don't want to thank, and don't want him to be part of my new, career or or any of that. So it was just shocking, but it was incredible. I mean, listen, I had an incredible, fun, amazing time working at General Hospital. Everything about that job was incredible. It was the best job besides, like, Cold Case was my dream job, I think, and I really enjoyed working on Big Mama's House. But General Hospital was home. I've never felt at home on a soap. Only General Hospital. It was the only soap I ever felt at home. So, and I was there for so many years, and we're like a family on General Hospital at the time. Everybody just really so close. So yeah, winning daytime Emmys or any kind of an Emmy, just having the accolade of peers is what made it so incredible for me. It's just, it's incredibly humbling experience to have your fellow actors that you respect turn around and give you a nod of respect. It feels good. And I think to myself, I wish that people in other industries had something similar, because I think every industry deserves a place where people are celebrated, who are doing good work and who are changing things or are innovating. And it would be great, if more industries had some sort of an award that you could say, oh, I was awarded this by my peers, the other people who do the same thing. Just for everyone, there should be a secretary's award and best used car mechanic. I think it's really not a bad idea.
How about an award for podcasters?
Hey,
Yeah.
you guys
Right?
You already know I'm voting for you.
Yeah.
Were you able to keep any of your trophies by
Yeah,
chance?
I have all of them, of course.
That's something
What am I
Shuki
going to
can never
throw
take
So-
from you.
away? Of course I'm not. They're my little girls. One of them has broken wings.
Aw.
So one Emmy last year, they were in storage because I was moving. I sold that house I told you about. A little bit crazy. And no big shocker there. Right? But I did check the house out before I sold it. I sold that house and I had all my stuff in storage, and I went and opened the storage door, and the box on top had an Emmy in it, and it crashed to the ground. It broke wings.
Aw.
And I have little broken wings, so I thought that's okay. Keep them just like that. And
It's
as
symbolic.
Nancy Legrand once told me that she had an Emmy with broken wings, and she kept it that way to remind herself that things, that all that glitters is gold, and that just because something shines doesn't make it real. And I think that's very true. Something shiny is, it's great at the time, but I think it would be more helpful if I had actual people standing up for me or supporting me or, coming forward and saying, oh my God, I can't believe what you've been through. Yeah, you've told me that story 100 times. I'd like to say that Sarah Brown has been telling me the story for 20 years. That would really mean something to me. That would really mean something to me. But yeah, I have had a few people, but not a whole lot. And interestingly, the people who've stood up for me the most, are not necessarily the one thing. A co-star that I never got any screen time. A production assistant who's a big producer now. Those are the strange things in life that you don't realize that when you're kind to people in life as you're going along, sometimes they turn around and they give you back that same kindness. It's been really incredible to see that.
Well, I think I can say for everybody here, hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're friends.
Hi.
We got you.
Yeah.
You
Hello.
If
I think
we
that's
were
yeah.
in person, I'd be giving you the biggest hug of all time right now.
Oh,
If and when
thank
you
you.
do come to
I'm sorry, I got all
conventions-
emotional.
When you do come to conventions finally, when the smoke clears and you're able to come to a convention we're going to, you
Was that
can
on
guarantee
purpose? Did you make that pun on purpose?
it. No.
Oh, you want to make a fire joke now, huh?
All right, hold on. Easy. You walked into that one like a rake.
I honestly did not think about that.
I know you didn't, but I heard it. When the smoke
I didn't think about
clears, huh?
anything till you said anything.
The smoke clears, the apartment is gone.
And she caught
Nothing
you
is
cold?
standing. Funny. But listen, thank you guys. I really do appreciate just, bringing it out into the open, giving it some sunlight, and hopefully, a couple of the fans can have a different understanding of the company. I don't wish for anything that I say to reflect poorly on the people who spent their life. This is their life's work. So I want to exclude everyone from the conversation that we just had, except for Haim and Shuki and the particular spouses and particular, close, personal, everyday friends of those people who participated in this. Because I just had great experiences with every single Power Ranger. I literally had such great experiences with everyone. We had a great time on the set because we were all we laughed to ourselves. Dog talks, car flies, checks clear. And that's what we said. Whenever we were frustrated, we would just say dog talks, car flies, checks clear. And then we would just move on with our lives. That's how we rolled, and it kept us all laughing. That was the thing, is that there was a lot of laughter on the set. And there were some really good people. Really good people.
Laughter is good for the soul.
Yeah, yes. And rest in peace. We've lost some of our actors, and they'll be missed. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye, and I regret that.
Yeah.
But no time like the present. So hopefully, somewhere down the line here, we'll have a proper reunion that doesn't involve the company. Doesn't involve somebody.
That will be the day.
Yeah.
And I
never say never.
Yeah.
So who owns the content now?
Hasbro.
That's a fair
Hasbro. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's important that Hasbro understands that this is the company that they bought the show from, that this is the content they own, that it was created under some of these circumstances, and that nobody who worked on it gets paid except for the people who've already been paid, I guess, the billionaires, so forth.
Actually, speaking of companies, I don't know if you heard of Boom Studios or not. They make the current series of Power Rangers comics. I wouldn't say fans have been pressuring, but they've been asking Boom Studios to make VR Troopers and comics about other shows. And we would personally love to see a continuation of the story from VR Troopers in comic form, because you guys never really did get a proper finale.
Right. We didn't. We just, we were preempted for 2 months.
So many questions left unanswered. It's like, we need closure after all these years.
Right, guys? Exactly.
So I know Matty over here would love that.
No, I think
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it's a great idea.
Speaking of fans, maybe we should open the floor to questions, guys.
Yeah, I know. We've gone a real long time.
We've gone a little over time.
Sorry.
No, there is no need for you to apologize.
No.
There's 20 years of history, and I'm like, how do I get out 20 really detailed information in a very short period of time? So I'm sorry if it's overwhelming. But I think that's a great idea. Let's talk to some of the
I'm sure the fans got some more questions probably about your career, stuff like that. Remember, folks, use the make sure you tag RVT Entertainment on Twitch so that we can see where the questions more easily. Yeah, there is no need for you to apologize. Yeah, 20 years and I'm surprised we condensed it down in this amount of time. So
have we been talking for 2 hours?
Yeah,
we have been talking for 2 hours.
Not counting recording time. Not counting recording time. Yeah, 2 hours and change.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's okay.
Mouth over here.
It's okay. Maddie's other podcast, the WrestleCast, tends to go for 4 hours. No joke.
Well,
this isn't so bad.
It's been a while.
I figured you guys were like,
this is still not our longest shows. DLBot asks, what was the funniest moment you remember experiencing on VR Troopers?
The funniest moment I remember experiencing, I think, let's see, it would definitely involve the ADR crew. So we had these just wonderful guys that would do ADR with us, and Mike and Brad were really funny. They're both really funny, and they're both pranksters. And so that was, I mean, I can't say like off the top of my head what would be the funniest thing that I remember seeing, because so much of it was ludicrous. But one thing that was really funny and we all laughed about all the time was the dog Jeb. So Jeb unfortunately had cancer throughout his whole body. He had tumors everywhere from head to toe.
Oh.
And he was the personal dog of our stunt coordinator, Phil. And so they fed him cheese and peanut butter in order to make it look like his mouth was moving so they could, do the ADR and make him talk. And it gave him really bad gas.
Yes.
Imagine.
Oh,
Gotta do it.
So we would be, in a very close proximity to each other, all locked into the dojo or some little tight shot, like under the mine or wherever we're, and the dog would be farting. And I think that's definitely the best. It was just the source of so much comedy.
And I can see it in my head. I can absolutely see it in my head. Just super serious scene.
Yeah.
Ryan, we found your father.
We found your father. Were there any serious scenes on VR Troopers? Exactly.
I could actually see
watch the gag rail because
I could actually see Brad Hawkins doing one of his emotional speeches in the beginning of every episode. It's like, "Father, I miss you." Oh God, Jeb!
That's the video. That's the video. I'm
Silent but deadly.
It's called. I forget what it's called, but they may have actually made him take it off YouTube because Saban found it offensive or something. But we did shoot a video like that.
Oh my God!
We all did ADR, just doing crazy, just saying absolutely ridiculous.
Let the scavenger hunt begin, people.
Yes.
I'll find it and send it to you for sure.
Definitely. Let's see. We had a question earlier. Your girl Mel, what was your favorite episode of VR Troopers to work on? Was there one that you remember?
Yes, I do. I think it would be Caitlin Goes to Hollywood.
Oh, I love that episode.
I
love that
sort
one.
of Sally Field.
Yep.
I was really young and I
yes.
loved Sally Field, and I still do. But they gave me, towards the end of VR Troopers, they wrote a lot of really heavy Caitlin episodes. So it was Caitlin Goes to Hollywood, and Caitlin does this, and Caitlin does that. And I'll tell you why that happened. Because the boys decided they didn't want to act anymore. They just wanted to do the fights. And so they just didn't enjoy it. They really enjoyed the physical stuff. They did not enjoy the acting. So Shuki wrote a lot of the episodes. And I think, he had a crush, obviously, the time he hired me. And so it became a lot of Caitlin does this and Caitlin does that. And Caitlin. So I had a lot of really episodes I like towards the end. And I think that's the one that stands out in my mind. I think that's the one where I kissed Jessie. And I think I was Aaron Pruner's actual first kiss, which is incredible.
That's adorable.
And I still tease him
awesome.
about it to this day.
Yeah.
I still tease him about it. I think it was Caitlin Goes to Hollywood that I kissed. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah.
Maybe that's why you got an episode with two Caitlins in that one thing.
Yeah, it's like Caitlin's twin or something.
Yeah.
There were
Caitlin
just
through the looking glass, I believe.
Yes,
exactly.
If Shuki wrote that actually puts that a lot into perspective.
Yeah, he wrote a lot of those, and that was specifically because he thought, he thought a lot of me. It made me feel like the company saw that I had talent and that I would have the opportunity to do SAG movies and things like that once the show finished. So, VR Troopers was my first job ever of any kind. I worked in a dress shop for I think a month or 3 weeks or something in high school once, but I got the job on my 19th birthday. So it was my first job, and I wasn't union, obviously. And I had been a gymnast. I don't know if people know that, but I had been a gymnast on team from the age of 5 until 14. So it was just a natural
I think it shows
part
in
of
your
my
fight scenes.
Aw, thanks. I feel like, I look more like a dance fight scenes because I couldn't quite get that concept of snapping it back, bring your leg back. I just wanted to extend my legs out, not bring them back. But you have to, you have to kick it really fast and then pull it back really fast in order to make it look like a kick.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, I know all about that.
I got my ass kicked a lot. Let me just put it that way. I definitely did. And I did most of my fight scenes with my boyfriend. So, unfortunate for him, it was him a lot of times kicking my ass, but totally accidentally. My fault. In other words, one time he's doing a swinging back fist and I forgot to duck. So I took it in the face. Another time I got a leg sweep and he hit my calf my shin, but he had such hard shins from being a Muay Thai, boxer that it
Well,
just
as most do, obviously.
yeah, that my legs swelled up with this massive contusion. And I remember the stunt coordinator saying, "Oh, that's good. That'll make your legs tough." And I was like, "No, man, I don't want my legs to be tough. What are you talking about?"
Good, your legs gonna be tough. I'm in pain, asshole.
No, I'm here to smile and look pretty, and no, but I loved Caitlin because I felt like she was a role. She was a reporter, and yeah, she was a role model. She was strong.
Honestly, we said this last week too when we were doing our story, but in all honesty, like we think you were more inspiring as a female fighter, if you will, than a lot of the actors on Power Rangers did. And that's not taken away from them, but that was just like you were much more direct about it. We do have a question from Evan Hunter Gale. What was it like working with, I'm going to probably fuck this name up, Richard Rabago, aka Tao's actor?
He's, unfortunately passed away, and I will just say that
What was that?
He was one of my favorite.
Ah.
He passed away, and I will just say, rest in peace, because he was the person that I was really upset that I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to. I didn't know he was sick. Yeah, I didn't know he was sick, and I just loved him. He was. Everyone did. There wasn't on the crew that didn't just absolutely adore him. He was wonderful. He was sweet and he was funny. He was just great.
Yeah, Die Hard, I think we kind of answered something like that already. He was asking what are your favorite moments behind the scenes. We kind of already discussed that a bit.
We covered that a little bit.
I have one weird question that just popped in my head.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about, favorite episodes and all that, possible favorite scenes, people to work with. A thought popped into my head. The flying car.
Yeah.
How did you first react to that? When you were told, okay, this is going to take place, you all need to act like you are in a flying car right now. And go.
I think, again, when I first took the audition for the job, I was doing Antigone, which is, the neoclassic Greek tragedy, but the French version of it. And I had gone through the High School of the Performing Arts, so it was very heavy on Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah.
That was totally, my training. And
totally one for one.
Yeah, so this was not, I will say that I kind of looked down my nose at it, but I found the fun in it. I found that camp can be fun, and that was just the world that we were living in. It just had to be matter of fact. The character goes through the transition as well, and I think that helps. The character is in the car when it actually starts to fly, and they're actually going off a cliff, and all of a sudden it starts to fly. But she didn't know it could do that. So it was similar. I think it was better that they did it that way rather than jumping into the series with these teenagers already knowing that their car flies and their dog talks, which I think would have been a lot. But let me ask you a question. Has anyone ever noticed or brought up the fact that the thing that we held in our hands, that the
the virtualizers?
Remember
the virtualizers?
The virtualizer, not the necklace. Right, so the virtualizers is that?
No,
that
was
basically
the necklace.
Oh, the communicators.
The communication devices. Okay,
their iPhones. They had screens on them with the professor's picture, and
you guys were kind of ahead of the curve on that.
I don't know that they weren't that he didn't actually know the iPhone coming out. I don't know that he didn't. I would say that it wouldn't surprise me if that was like some sort of something he had heard from or about what Steve Jobs was doing. Because they're both
early for that, but
they're both Egyptian billionaires. I mean, I don't know when Steve Jobs came up with that idea, right?
That was like in the early 2000s. I think I was way ahead of a time there.
Yeah.
What, 96?
Yeah, 96.
Yeah.
But
we don't know when Steve Jobs actually started to design that in his head or started to try to talk to people about it or raise money for it or any of that.
Well, I know he stole the iPad from Star Trek.
Did he? I mean, I always have wondered. I thought, there's no way that thing it is the iPhone. Essentially, it looks just like the iPhone. It's just got it just curves together so you can hold it. Like with a clenched fist.
Yeah.
So it's basically the iPhone
Okay.
shrunk. It's the iPhone if the bottom half of the iPhone a lot skinnier.
Fair enough.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's a computerized phone. Yeah.
And it's actually a good segue to our next question for Metal Gear J. Did you get to keep any of the props or anything from the show?
Nothing.
Of course. Cheap fucks.
Totally terrible.
At least they should have let you keep the necklaces.
I think we got, I think we got T-shirts. I don't even know if we ever got jackets. I mean, maybe we did, but
I worked on this TV show, and all I got was
we
a
may have
t-shirt.
gotten jackets. Mine would have been in the house fire, so I don't remember.
Yeah, that might have backfired.
I don't know if we got the backfired.
No pun intended. No pun intended. You already did the right joke.
Rangers got cars. The Rangers all got Jeeps. I think they were
What?
Jeeps. They were all given Jeeps. Yeah. And I think we thought, when I was hired, I thought, oh, this show is so successful, the Power Rangers, that they'll treat us the same way. But they didn't. They treated the Rangers with kid gloves in a lot of ways, and they spoiled them and gave them, lucrative deals plus raises plus cars, and we didn't get anything like that. Yeah, but we had a huge budget, so you gotta wonder, where was all that money going? That's really nice. The one thing. Because
your ratings and toy sales, I've done my homework on this. We're on par with Power Rangers, so you guys
100%.
totally got the short end of the stick there.
We totally did. We was in the variety of saying #1 new kid show, and it was winning its time slot consistently, and so it was weird for all of us that they, I think we held it in the back of our minds that maybe it would happen for us, but we never reached that level of success, and then we were preempted and taken off together. But we never hit the same, we had a huge audience show up to Universal to see us. Show after show after show after show, live show. But we didn't have 30,000 people show up the way that the Rangers had,
Yeah.
But I think the Rangers, what they did so successfully with the Rangers is that there was someone to appeal to the Rangers. Everyone felt represented. Most people would look at the Rangers and say, I can feel represented here. There's an African-American person. There's a girl who wears pink and is very girly and does gymnastics. Although I don't associate the two things with each other very much. But, there were a lot of personality. Whereas on VR Troopers, we were just two boys and a girl.
That's funny, because originally it was just going to be one guy. I don't know if you know the story about that.
No.
Yeah, originally VR Troopers was just going to be about one guy. Ironically, it was going to be a vehicle for Jason David Frank. It's called Cybertron.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah. But then they
Cybertron is what it was called.
Right. Yeah, and then they added two more characters, you guys. So I think that actually worked better in the end.
Oh, for sure. I don't think one character by himself entertained the kids quite as much, but maybe not. I mean, Jason Franks was hugely popular. So, did you guys ever see the Power Rangers episode?
Oh yeah, the one in Zeo. Oh yeah, we remember that.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Indeed.
Well, I will tell everyone that's listening, all 32 people. I did become a huge snowboarder, and that was my first time.
Nice.
Yeah, a huge. I mean, absolutely, it's just my favorite thing to do. I don't do it anymore because of my neck, but I just love it. So that was my introduction.
Little known fact there. Nice.
Any more questions?
Yeah, any more questions for the chat before we wrap this up? Because we still got a little more time.
Well, I got one. Well, I'll go while we wait. I got one. Sarah, do you think that Caitlin was the real boss at the Underground Voice? Because I noticed
Definitely.
The boss was always goofing off. Like, I was just watching one episode where he built this castle out of cookies, and I'm just like, Caitlin's the real boss around here.
100%. I'm the only one serious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not that wasn't brilliant, making a castle out of cookies.
Yeah. He was great, too. I liked him a lot. He was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He was a lot of fun. But I think Caitlin was definitely the best.
Yeah.
Secretly.
That goes back to my my closure thing that I said earlier about the comics. Maybe if they did do a comics about the team later down the line, Caitlin would be running the Underground Voice now. Kind of like the editor-in-chief.
Right.
Which I think would be brilliant.
Because Woody would presumably be in, he would be retired at this point, I would think.
Exactly.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I could have said something else, but I was like, yeah, just be careful.
Let's go with retired. Let's stick with that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's go with
That's fair. That's fair enough.
Yes. Yeah,
Sarah.
no, yeah. I mean, I think there's the potential there for Hasbro to do whatever they want to do with the series, move it forward or not. But I think it is. Yeah, it's just good to. It'd be nice to be able to catch up with everyone and see everyone all in one place. That would be super nice.
Actually, that brings up a thought, Sarah, if I may. Did you ever show your daughter like VR Troopers and the work you did while she was growing up?
No, she never got into it. It wasn't. It's not that she's never seen it, but it's on Netflix now, or it was recently when I looked. So it's on Netflix, and she can access it if she wants to. But I just don't think she's been interested in seeing any of my work, to be honest.
She doesn't want to see her old mom in the prime.
No, I don't think she has so many more important things to do. She's
21. She doesn't have that much to do.
Well, I have had my nieces, and my nieces did enjoy it, so that was good. And nephews. I even have a nephew now. He's a baby. He's only 6, and he's the most adorable. And he likes VR Troopers, and he likes to watch that. So
you bring up nephews. Yeah, I've got little nieces and nephews who I've actually tried, showing them all these heroes that their uncle grew up with, and they actually saw VR Troopers and went, "Oh, that's cool."
Oh, right.
Like, it
was a cute show. I mean, it was silly with where are the puppies? Grimlord has stolen the puppies. There was a lot of silly That was my least favorite episode. Can I be honest? I love dogs. Don't get me wrong. Puppies are my favorite, but Grimlord has taken the puppies was my least favorite episode to shoot.
Grimlord has run the fireworks factory.
And how about the Grimlord's God, he had all the women who were, with the black dress and.
Yeah, Zictor was a pimp.
Zictor,
he was. Zictor was a pimp.
A long time, but those girls were basically stolen from the music video,
Yeah, from the Robert Palmer "Addicted to Love" video.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I plan on making that joke in my review, actually.
Those kinds of adult things are fun. I think that those are the kinds of things they did for the adults, so that the adults could laugh.
Yeah, how was Gardner in real life? Did you get to meet him?
Yeah,
because I would have loved to meet him before he died.
Just lovely, I didn't spend a lot of time with him the way I did with Richard, but every actor that we worked with was awesome. There wasn't anybody who was difficult or just not at all. Everybody was wonderful. Everybody was really happy to have jobs. That's everyone wanted to.
Mike Shell's actually got an interesting question for you here. One of our other producers.
Certainly.
Do you have any memories or stories from your guest shot on Birds of Prey?
Let's see. Yes, I do remember that Ashley, who was kind of the star of it, or one of the main stars, was doing SWAT at the time. And that was a big film with Colin Farrell.
I remember that. Yeah.
And so I just remember her telling us about it in the makeup trailer, specifically that she had this big, massive, action film that was coming out, and that we should look out for it. And I thought
hold on a minute. Hold on, I'm losing my connection here. Give me a sec. I need to fix something here.
Hey guys.
There we go.
Hey.
Connection dropped.
Hi there.
That happened.
Yeah.
What happened?
Sometimes Discord, if the server gets overloaded, it'll cause the audio to get screwed up. So I just changed it to a different server.
Yeah, it happens. It's one of those situations where the internet is the internet, and we move on.
Yes.
Yep.
So anyway, Ashley hadn't said, go see this film, and I did, and I really, really liked it. I thought it was, very well done, and I ended up becoming good friends with one of the actors from the movie, just totally randomly, and outside of that, I ended up bumping into him at an audition, and telling him how much I loved him in the movie Birds of Prey, and then I ended up writing a pilot and writing a part for him, and becoming good friends with him and his wife.
Nice.
So that's my Birds of Prey story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. I liked Birds of Prey. I liked doing that show. That was fun.
That show didn't get enough love. I'm actually glad that she's coming back for the big team up.
Oh, she is? Ashley?
Yeah, for the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing they're doing in the Arrowverse. It was just
Excellent.
announced.
No, she's great. I just thought highly of her. She's a really good actress, and she was so kind. And I think that that's something that stays with you when you work on someone else's set and they're incredibly kind to you when they're the star of the show. You never forget it.
It's one thing I've kind of learned in my many years of talking with, whether it be anime voice actors or Rangers actors or just people in general, is that the ones that become the most popular, the ones that stand out the most, often end up being the kindest and most down-to-earth people. Like,
Right.
And give you a story that I had personally in the music world, actually. Couple years straight, for several years, we went to a concert event that happened for our local radio station, and a couple of years in a row, we got meet and greets with some of the bands. One year, we met a band called Against Me. Probably a small-time punk band. They were just starting to build up. And we went to go meet them, and they were absolute jerks. They obviously did not care about anybody. They weren't happy to be there. You could tell. They just did not pay any attention to us at all the entire time. And needless to say, nobody's heard of them. Like, that band has pretty much fallen off the face of the earth. I wonder why.
Right.
However, the year later, as a counterbalance to that, we had met the band Anne Berlin. Another alternative rock band. Yeah, see, the fact that you recognize that name says something. We met them, and they were the exact opposite. They were the kindest, most awesome people we'd ever met. They loved talking with us. They took pictures with us. They were happy. They were smiling with us. And they actually just recently came back and have been going back on tour again. So,
They're great.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, I would say that, like, about Brad, that's something that interests me is, again, what I brought up hours ago, apparently, was that, there were a lot of talented people, and Brad is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. He just absolutely helps people. He is absolutely a gentleman. He absolutely always would help the women around him if he could in any way. He just was a super sweet, loving, kid from Texas, and he has that very gentlemanly attitude. And I would have liked to have seen him move on and be able to do more things, I think.
Actually,
so it's always been really curious to me. No, he did the
big
film, but
he has kind of done things. He's doing some voice acting in anime these days.
Oh, good. That's good. He's doing voice acting. That's good.
Yeah,
I saw him a couple of years ago when his movie was coming out, the Oscar movie. Boys Live. And we spent some time together, and then he went back to Texas, and I just thought, Brad should be able to make a career out of acting. He's very talented and great looking, and it's interesting.
Yeah, so thankfully he has moved on. Like, he recently starred in an anime called Goblin Slayer, which is a pretty good series. He's also doing stuff for the big anime that's out right now, My Hero Academia. He's in that. So he's got some work.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Anyway, I don't think we're going to be getting any more questions at this point, and I think we've covered just about everything, so I think it's about time we wrap things up. But, Sarah, I want to send a big thank you for taking the time out to come out and talk to us about all of this. It has been an honor and a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure as well. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate you talking with me.
Again, we appreciate you. Like,
the pleasure's been all ours.
To talk to us.
Well, stay in touch, will you?
Will do.
Undoubtedly.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll talk again. All right, you guys. Have a great night. Thank you.
You as well.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, so with that, ladies and gentlemen, wow.
Oh, boy. Oh, I'm surprised. I'm kind of embarrassed. I kept my mouth shut tonight, but I was like, she was telling her story, and I am not regretting just hanging back.
That's one for the age, boys.
Yeah, and a big thank you to everyone who joined us here tonight for this. And we got a few new faces. We actually had a subscription earlier tonight. I didn't get a chance to even bring this up. TJ Hawkin 37 gave us a Twitch Prime sub earlier. So EY!
Wow.
EY! Awesome.
Prime sub, hell yeah.
Yeah, and
awesome.
both
I'm
him
talking
and
about.
the Ranger Network gave us a follow, so thank you both and welcome to the madness. Thank you for that. But yeah, you guys really made this a big moment for us. And Sarah, it was everything we hoped for and more. I mean, yeah, we knew this night was going to be dark. It was going to be deep. It was going to be intense. But the fact that she was such a sweetheart just made everything worthwhile.
God, all I got to say is, damn, Thursdays are wild.
No, we know it.
Story of our life.
No. Ron
Sundays were
Wasserman and now
wild.
this. Jesus, H-Tap dancing Christ.
Man.
You can only imagine on my end how things are going. It's going to be one of those situations where you go, like, take away this. There's still the wrestling stuff, which, yeah, WrestleCast tomorrow is going to be fucked up. In a good way, of course. But I add this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for those who are new around here, I'm going to a funeral tomorrow.
Yikes.
My life is officially weird.
Yep. Also, I
Alright.
meant to post this video for Sarah to watch. It was the opening to Spielbahn, which her character comes from.
Yeah.
You can
Oh, well,
DM her on,
and-
you can always DM her on Facebook. She's not hard to get a hold of, obviously.
Yeah, it's all right. Oh well, in for a penny, out for a pound.
But yeah, as Desh Shinta puts it elegantly in the chat, for all the shit Shuki Levy and Haim Saban and everyone involved did to this poor woman, who clearly did not deserve any of this, there is a special place in hell reserved for them.
Yeah.
Like,
I am never going to look at anything Saban produced in the same light again.
Yeah,
I think,
Me neither.
and honestly, I think that's the best thing we can do.
yeah.
Yeah.
We now, I mean, I hate to say this, but I can see where she's coming from. Seeing anything produced by Saban now, it's been tainted by knowing this. And that's not Sarah's fault. Like, this is not me blaming it. This is us saying Saban and Lev and Levy have ruined the franchise with their actions. Levy especially, my fucking God, may he pray I never meet him in person, because I will go to jail just for the chance to knock his fucking teeth out.
Yeah,
That's not
I
enough.
slug Haim
That's not enough.
too. Yeah.
Send them to Dick Kick City. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I'm glad we haven't blown up as a podcast and got invited to the movie premiere where they were. Because probably would have slugged those bastards. I probably would have pulled a Rocky 5 on Shuki and Haim. Touch me and I'll sue. Boom, boom. Sue me for what? What are you gonna take? My shitty apartment?
Yeah, exactly.
My $300 a week?
Good fucking luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we were the best people to do something like this. Like, this is not me tooting my own horn or anything, because obviously we are very low end, but we have nothing to lose by doing this. We lost nothing by doing
Hell,
this.
this whole thing started with me saying, "Hey, come to a convention. We'll prove to you we didn't know."
We had no idea it was going to go this
know.
far.
I'd like to think we've changed her mind a little bit.
I think
I
so.
would like to agree. Yeah.
I am knocking on wood, boys.
I don't.
I guess this makes us whistleblowers, huh, guys?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Dude, we're whistleblowers. That's awesome.
Put out the expose.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I just feel that, you know, she has this story. I mean, you could make a movie out of her story, for fuck's sake.
You could make like I said, we even talked to her before the podcast. You got enough here for a tell-all book. If you could get this shit published, you could fry. Levy would fry.
Yeah. Like, this is a book in the making. Hell, this is a movie in the making. A tell-all movie you could make about this is so bad. Like, this, I could see this as like a Lifetime original movie. I'm not even kidding.
Exactly. We're not even joking here, people.
No, we're not.
This story deserves to be told in one way or another, and we need to spread this to our other whistleblower friends. Like, I bet No Pink Spandex would be interested in this when they did the David Yost story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if anyone's got connections with any of those groups, No Peak Spandex, MMPR Toys, all those other big groups out there, send them this.
Hell, ask Brad. Ask Brad Hawkins to show this. They're still friends.
Just tweet this out. Just tweet it out.
Tag people, tweet it out, tag them in it, post it on whatever social media you can. Go above and beyond for us, folks. We're going to do that, and we're going to ask you to do the same. Go out there, go to every group you follow. If it hasn't already been posted there, post it there. Give this voice some volume.
Yeah. Hashtag justice for Sarah.
Yes. And add that hashtag. We're going to start, we brought up the Vic Mignogna shit earlier, and I know some of you guys don't want to hear about that, but I'm going to keep this brief. But this is that all over again, but on a whole nother level. Like, this makes the Vic Mignogna story look tame in comparison.
Yeah.
Like, if you guys can rally behind that, rally behind the Yoshi's Army hashtags, you can do the same here.
Yeah.
Because honestly, this is needed. This is, in this day and age, this is needed.
This is. I don't think Levy will fry for this. I don't think he'll. Yeah, I don't know what, but he deserves something for this. He shouldn't be out there walking free for this.
Yeah.
Like I said, thou shalt not get away with it.
No.
Very, very true. Very true.
Again, if you've ever seen me on the monastery, me and Matty, we've doused water on a lot of Me Too stories that were clearly bullshit, but this is something completely different. This is legit. We have the proof. You saw it yourself. You saw the restraining order. And that wasn't even everything. I have other images on here you guys didn't even see.
I'm amazed. I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get a chance to make fun of the irony of Sarah being accused for drug abuse by a dude who smoked marijuana. No joke. When John first showed me this a couple of days ago, I was laughing for 5 minutes.
He was.
I saw that and I was on the floor.
It was something to see, folks. But yeah. Oh, God damn it. This was incredible. So thank you guys, but I think it's time we wrap things up here. Jesus Christ. How do I process what the hell just happened?
Very easily, click the button. Just click the button, my friend.
Easy. Send us home.
Yeah, I would normally this is the part of the show where I close with some jokes, but we've been talking about a giant joke for 2 hours now.
You know what? I think the way we close it is very simply. Sarah Brown said it best. Remember, dog talks, car flies, chicks clear.
Also,
Put that on a t-shirt and sell it.
Die Hard, to answer your question, yes, we will be having a doubleheader next week to catch up.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
I think
that
goes
was
without
the
saying.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to speed run that shit. But anyway, again, huge shout out to Sarah Brown. Can't believe we got a freaking metal hero on the show. And of course, another shout out to Spade Ace for helping out here. Ace, your questions killed it, man. Virtual too sweet.
Thank you, Virtual Too Sweet. Just as a heads up, those of you who will be asking on Toku Riffs, I will not be on next week or this week. I will try to be back for the 13th. Hollow Scream down here in Florida is in full gear, and your boy needs to make money. So I will be with the boys in spirit.
It's that time of year, folks. So yeah, so there you go. But anyway, we want to thank everyone who listened, everyone spreading the message, everyone spreading the story. Keep it going for our girl Sarah. Until next time, I'm Easy Rider reminding you that honestly, I got nothing. I got nothing for that. Yep. So I had something earlier today, and I should have written it down for this, but no. I think I've already made enough bad jokes tonight. Yeah, I'm still stewing about that smoke joke. So yeah.
Oh God.
So yeah, fuck me, right? Anyway, I'm Easy Rider, reminding you that the fan sub will never die. We are your Ranger Recappers. We will see you next week for 2 episodes of Beast Morphers. And as always, if you have a problem in life, hashtag just add Morphex. And as always, may the power protect you. We'll see you. We are...
Make these dreams even better. Also, thanks to these dreams, Chris Lee, Chris Rolls, Michael Stephen Harris, Galen Alonzo Thompson, Anthony Edmond, Matthew Goling Long, Dino, and shout out Vaughn and Tom for their support.